From the John DeVita Broadcast Center, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another broadcast of Meet the Chicago Historians on the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network on Wednesday, December the 27th, the year 2017. Today, the panel will be talking about the life history of Ken Little. Ken Little, who was one of the original panelists on Meet the Chicago Historians, passed away last month, in December. So sit back and enjoy Meet the Chicago Historians. And now to start today's broadcast, here's our mediator, Mr. Jack Ryan.
Yay.
Yay, Jack.
This is where the buck passing stops, right here. So, well, welcome, everybody. This is still our Christmas show also, and this is the Christmas season. 2 days afterward is what's still Christmas time up till when? New Year's?
Yes.
Or the Epiphany. It depends, yes. But no, I know we're still visiting, and it's not the busiest of weeks. And but anyway, we did say we're going to do this for our good friend, and we miss him, Ken Little. And there, so far the panel we have four here. We have one guest, and to my right is
Tom McKenna, retired Chicago police officer, lifelong friend of our moderator, John Ryan, Jack Ryan, Red Ryan, under many assumed names, and also one of the few people that will actually admit to knowing him for that many years.
Yeah, it's a lot of years. 1953, I think it was.
That
I didn't go to kindergarten, so can you tell?
I thought you went but flunked out.
I didn't pass it the first time.
I
had to go to junior college.
The kindergarten SATs. You didn't get the to score high enough.
I didn't.
I think you were very lax in finger painting.
I was good in sandbox.
Sandbox
was good.
You were big in sandbox.
Remember in those days, that's what kindergarten was like, but not now.
Did you know your ABCs, or was it ACB?
Yeah, he wasn't. So we hooked up in what, first grade?
Second grade.
Second grade.
And you had Sister Ildefonse, right?
That's right.
Well, I had Sister Cicely. Well, that woman did not like me. I did not like me.
Sister Cicely?
That was her name.
Was she Italian?
Or was it? No, I don't know. Was she Cecily or Sicily? I'm not even sure. All I know is, she was did not like me. One time I had my paper, and up on the margin on top, I drew a rocket ship, And she asked me, why did I do that? I said, to make the paper look nice. So it gets my mother in there telling me I was being smart alecky to her, not knowing that a kid will say something like that. Meaning it.
Oh, well, those nuns.
Oh, I'm telling you, this one did not like me. I got injured playing around the neighborhood, and this kid, Kurt Muller, threw a radio tube. Remember Marvel Radio and TV used to spread 66 and Damon?
Right.
Well, he was the son of the owner. Well, he threw it, and the prongs hit me in the back of the head, What happened? I told her, and she says, nice kid you play with. This is really, just what you need to be introduced into education with something like this. And next panel member?
Bill Kugelman, retired from the Chicago Fire Department, and very active with the Fire Museum of Greater Chicago, of which Ken Little was one of the founding members, and we miss him. We just missed the guy.
Mm-hmm.
He could, you know what? It dawned on me when my friend Maureen from the Sun-Times called and wanted to know about him, and it dawned on me that Ken probably saved a lot of lives and a lot of property, because he knew exactly where the firehouses were and where the companies were, and who went where, and right at that minute where they were, and he got them there in record time. Yeah. So he probably he was a great guy.
Yeah.
And to my left is another Little, and this is the grandson of Ken Little. Introduce yourself, Tim.
Sure, yeah. So my name's Tim Little, grandson of Ken Little. Have many memories of him. As we were saying before the show, he knew every street. He knew every building, and even the weather in some instances as well. So a lot of memories of my grandfather. I'm very proud of him, and my father as well.
Oh, yeah.
So
now, what you were saying there,
great
Bill,
people.
you can't teach that.
No, you
Because
can't.
you get the experience and you get the knowledge you already have, and
But
that-
you have to have that in your mind too, in your character.
Mhm.
And Ken had that.
Right. You hear the term walking encyclopedia, and as far as the city of Chicago goes, Ken was a walking encyclopedia.
He was the Wikipedia of the day, or the what's the other one on the
Google.
The Google Maps. The
Mr.
Google
Right.
Maps.
Yeah.
If you wanted to know something about Chicago, you didn't have to Google it if Ken was here.
A lot
But-
of people don't know it, but he also was a great Cubs fan, and not only a Cubs fan, but a baseball fan. He had a lot of information.
Oh yeah,
on
he knew a
baseball.
lot. We
Yeah.
we had a couple of trivia like question books of like 19, especially like older stuff too, from like the 30s and 40s. He
Yeah.
knew all the players. Very knowledgeable.
I was going to say his knowledge and abilities were not just limited to Chicago and streets and whatever. It's just, I remember I mentioned one time.
History.
Yeah, there was a movie on. I didn't realize when I first saw it. I tuned in late. My Wild Irish Rose with Dennis Morgan and a few other regulars, and it was a story of and he says Chauncey Olcott, and I didn't know who the guy even was. It was a real story. He was a guy, an American from Ohio, Irish, who he wrote a lot of these songs. They're so Irish, Black Tamara's Band and stuff like that. And
Right.
he was like a contemporary of George M. Cohan. And the picture was made full in Technicolor. I think they were Warner Brothers was trying to recapture the magic they had in Yankee Doodle Dandy. But it's interesting anyway. I mean, those biopics are always very fictionalized, but nonetheless, it gives you a little idea. And he knew that right away. He got a gold star that day. So,
Well, one of the things one of the reasons I think that Ken was so knowledgeable about many things is because he was a very good listener.
Yeah.
He listened to people, and he had a thirst for knowledge. Even of course we're all getting up in age, and a lot of times the older you get, the less interested you are in certain things. But Ken, his knowledge and interest seemed to continue, and maybe even if it's at all possible, to get stronger. Because if there was something that he didn't know, he would ask, and he would remember it. The problem with a lot of people that are very knowledgeable is that they are very ready, willing, and able to tell you how knowledgeable they are in a very boring way. But Ken was not like that. Ken was the direct opposite.
Now let's not get on Jack Ryan's back here now when you.
No, I wouldn't assume that John was very knowledgeable.
the thing is,
Just kidding, just kidding.
an old saying was, someone I worked with said, "You're supposed to listen with your ears, not with your big mouth."
There you go.
But
That's why you have 2 ears and only 1 mouth.
That's right.
You ever heard that one?
Very
No.
good, very good, Tim.
I have to remember that.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. What you said, Tom. There's always something out there to be learned, and
Yes.
you learn a lot from a lot of people, even if it was how not to be. But I mean, we go into a bar somewhere, and the people who know, we were saying before, the people who know the least know the most, according to them, and you just can't tell them. You can't tell them otherwise.
According to them,
Yeah.
yes.
We had a guy in our neighborhood around the time Tom and I came on the job insisting the police department they issue your guns. They give you those guns.
Oh yeah.
And you couldn't have told them otherwise. No.
Yeah, and the problem with that is I could see if he was telling the story to a couple of school teachers, but he's telling this to 2 Chicago police officers that both bought their guns.
Stupid one and bought them,
So it shows that, common sense didn't even fall into play there, where you'd say, maybe these guys might know a little bit more about it than I do.
Yeah.
I know the state police issues their guns.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of departments
They
do.
do, yeah.
That's when you see in the TV shows that you're suspended, they take your badge and your star and your gun.
Yeah.
But when you're suspended, not that I know anything about anything like that. But anyway, what other, Tim? Are you there?
Yes. I'm
What
here.
other interest? I mean, was he baseball? And you say he knew a lot of the stats. And baseball is probably the most well kept as far as stats go. And with all this from the day when I never learned to do it right to keep scoring a game. But I mean, yeah, he had it. And he knew, no, about, he said he used to like to go to Comiskey, too. He said,
Yeah.
old Comiskey. And,
That was history.
right.
Yeah, he knew the South Side really well. In fact, he liked the South Side, I think,
That's what he
better
said.
He
than the North Side.
Now, where was that office he worked out? Inglewood Fire Alarm, right?
Right.
Where was that actually, Bill?
63rd
And
It's right off the expressway.
in the
right?
expressway.
Yeah, right off the
in
Dan
the
Ryan.
Ryan.
Dan
Yeah.
Ryan.
yeah, but that was
Yeah.
there forever, wasn't it?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. My when my son before he went on to state police, he worked for the city of Chicago as a fire alarm operator and a telephone answerer, and he worked for Ken, and he really liked them. And I know Ken, knowing me, in our history, why Ken kind of took him under his wing and helped him along. And
That was good. That was good.
Yeah, yeah. He
Now,
did a
is
good
that
job.
the Inglewood Fire Alarm still there, or
No,
no?
it's all and Maine isn't even there anymore.
It's all at the,
it's all at the
communication center
right.
Oh yeah, yeah.
on,
Right.
on Madison.
Right. Yeah, we
Right
still
near the-
call it Maine and Englewood, but it should just be north and south, I suppose. I don't know.
You know, every time I hear someone talk about the communication center, I remember when it was opening, and they had people from other departments, actually from around the world, because this was a real state-of-the-art system when it was put into effect. And I remember they were talking about one of the advantages on the police side of it is when someone gets a call to a certain address, they will know if there have been previous calls there, what the call history is, if there's bad guys there. And someone, and this was pretty close to when it was getting ready to be opened, someone asked the question, the information about the previous call history, how is that inputted into the system? And the people who were in charge started looking at one another, and they realized they didn't. There was no system in place to do that. So, believe it or not, they hired a bunch of high school kids from Whitney Young,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
and they went through case reports and inputted the information into the system before it opened. One of those best laid plans of mice and men. Yeah, we had the system here that you're going to know if there was a call there previously. Yeah. How do you know that?
We
Yeah,
just,
how do we know that?
we just lost a guy I think he lived in Kentucky, Mike King, and he was a boss on our job, and he was given the assignment when we went to computers. It was the CAD center, we called it, at Engine 25's house, which was right at the fire academy. And Mike went down there, and he had told me later on, he knew I was, with the union and that, and he said, he says, there's something wrong here. There's just something wrong. He says, we aren't doing it the way it was before, when it was Ken Little's business of everything up in his head, and not only Ken but everybody down there, and this computer stuff just isn't working. So they looked at it. Mike kind of raised a little hell with them down there, and the powers to be, and they hired a Swedish company to come in and fix this. So they got it better, we thought. And when you were out in the field and you got an alarm, you didn't hear somebody like Ken Little talking to you that knew what he was talking about. You got some Swedish guy with a Swedish accent that knew nothing about the streets in Chicago
Yep.
and didn't know how to pronounce them. And, and it was the joke of the fire department, the absolute joke of the fire department. And like I say, I was active with the union, and one of the things, safety programs was, let's get the Swede off of the radio, and let's get somebody on there that knew English. And so they finally did change it, but it still isn't like hands-on, which Ken Little was Mr. Hands-on. So
Well, that ability like that is invaluable. You just, you know, what do you do when somebody like that retires?
exactly,
You know?
exactly. Who do you replace them with?
Yeah.
You know.
Hope you got somebody coming up that's kind of interested. But you have to also want to do the job right.
Well, years ago, when before the computer, we had that guys coming up.
Mm-hmm.
Their kids. We had the Grady's.
Yep.
The Grady's, and there had to be at least 3 or 4 that I know of in the family, and they were all good. You know, they had that interest. So I'm surprised one of Ken Little's boys didn't go in there. He had enough of them.
How many?
Well, I mean, my dad is now fire chief
Yeah.
downtown. So, but yeah, other than that, that was pretty much it.
He's in one in the city.
Yeah, he's in the 1st Battalion. Yeah,
Yeah.
downtown,
Now,
250 Columbus Drive.
How many siblings were there in your dad's family?
Well, a lot of I have a lot of aunts and uncles.
Yeah.
Let's see, I got my Rich and Phil and Bob.
You don't even know.
I think it was
Let's have
like
a census
I
here.
think it was like 8 or 9 of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Oh,
I thought it was 10 or 12.
I'm talking about just regular uncles and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, quite a few.
Yeah.
Yeah. Big family.
I know whoever I was calling last year or so, and one of his sons was there, and it sounded just like him on the phone. I don't know who that would have been, but who you looking for? I said, oh, I'm sorry, I thought it was your dad. You know,
Might have been Phil.
Might have been Phil. Yeah, Phil sounds kind
sounded
of like
so
him.
much like
yeah.
him.
Yeah.
But how do you actually get someone into an interest like that? I guess you'd have to, because for our listeners out there, Ken was not a fireman. He was a
Dispatcher.
Dispatcher.
yeah, but I mean, he wasn't a fireman ever, right?
Correct. He was never.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
I thought of another name. You probably know the name Bingham. Bingham. He was in that.
Yes,
Bill
Bill.
Bingham,
Right.
and Junior was in our class. His son
Right.
in our class at St. Rita of '64, and he lived over around St. Rita Parish there and coached football. But he was the
He was a good operator.
you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh yeah. He was one of the dispatchers, one of our operators at the Holy Our Lady of the Angels Fighter.
Oh, good.
And yeah, he's in fact I just put him on the website.
Mm-hmm.
The kid sent me his picture and you know the story behind him. But yeah, the Binghams were another family, another fire family.
Was your grandfather working that day? Do you know?
I'm not sure if he was working. He was actually in the office that day or not. I don't know.
I don't remember.
December
either,
1st,
too.
1958.
Yeah.
We were in 7th grade then, okay? The hula hoop was something new at the time. Alvin and the Chipmunks just came along with that song. And then, what else?
Yeah, I remember hearing about it, and being, attending a Catholic grammar school at the time. It really it took a while for the reality of what took place to sink in.
Right. Right.
I'm sure still me hasn't.
By
to
the
this
way,
day-
I'll give this a little plug. December 1 of 2018, we, the Fire Museum of Greater Chicago, will have a program at the Fire Academy, probably about 10 o'clock. And this will be done by a guy that really puts on a good program. And he it goes for a couple hours and it's very interesting. He really touches on all subjects. And then the next day, which will be Sunday, the 2nd, we will have the 60th anniversary Mass at Holy Family Church at Roosevelt in May. And we don't know what time that's going to be, but I mean, it's 60 years ago. The attendance is getting lower and lower with with the age group, and but it's a tearjerker,
Oh God.
a tearjerker.
You really can't imagine something like that. You have to see some figure like one of those newsreels of all the corpses. And,
Yeah, yeah. Well, this guy puts on. His name is Jim Gibbons, and he puts on one really, like I say, tearjerker of a program.
Well,
and
what
very
what
informational.
what did they determine that the cause was of that, or have they?
Well, accidental arson,
Really?
if there is such a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I was involved with the OLA, Friends of OLA, my company, by the way, my company was there. I wasn't at the fire. I was in France. I was in the Army. But my company was there, so I would have been there. The people that I got to know knew who it was that started this, and that he was out in California, some town out there, smaller town near L.A., and they went out there. The three women went out there, and they got a hold of the fire chief, the police chief, the people, and told them that this guy is a over-the-road truck driver and living out there. And we found out later on that he moved.
Yeah.
So,
Well, someone came out and said they had done it. Was that him?
yeah,
I remember
Yeah.
that a number of years ago.
yeah.
Started it.
It's and I won't mention any names, but there's a book out, bestseller, I guess you would call it, on the fire. And the one guy that wrote it, there were two people that wrote it, but the one guy that wrote it just got out of the joint here, the jail, for people that don't know what the joint is, that he's an arsonist. And here he wrote the book. And he was, the people in OLA thought he had a halo on.
Yeah.
And here the guy is an arsonist.
When arsonist for profit or what?
No.
Just
no,
for kicks?
No, yeah, the kicks. Yeah.
God.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, was any of that at fault of the way the kids were told to sit or stay, or?
Well,
I know it's hard to put blame, but I'm not trying to put a blame.
nothing like that had ever happened before.
I know, right.
The nuns,
Nothing to compare it to.
yeah, they couldn't compare it to anything, pray. Well, what else did they do?
Mm-hmm.
So luckily there were people around there that did get some of them out.
Yeah.
And there was a mistake on the address. That
Yeah.
was a big thing.
Right.
The fire
That's what my
company-
grandfather said. There was a mistake initially
Yeah.
where the companies were dispatched to.
Right,
And,
to the wrong address, and
Yeah.
It was
it,
right
it might have
nearby.
been different. It might
Yeah,
have been different.
That's what he said. So that time difference, who knows what could
Yeah.
have happened between that time if they had been
Right.
dispatched properly. But
I do know our grade school, St. Theodore, was at 62nd and Paulina in Chicago. Prior to that time, no telephone in the school. There was no kind of a sprinkler system.
Mhm.
If the nun who was in charge of the office would go over to the rectory to make some business calls or whatever, which was like across the street. The only building left there is the rectory. It's called Clara's house now. It's a shelter. You see it on the what you would call it on the public access station sometime. But anyway, but I tell you, right afterward, we had a telephone and they installed a sprinkler system.
Oh yeah,
Right after
they
that
all
was-
did.
Yeah.
That fire and that picture of Dick Scheid taking a kid out, that went
Yep.
all over, not the country.
Yeah.
It went all over the world.
Yeah,
oh
it's
yeah,
all
it
over
was,
the
it was in the
world.
newspapers too. My dad
Oh,
showed
yeah.
it to me in the
That's
paper.
one of those
Yeah.
pictures like the guys raising the flag in Iwo Jima, that's
Right,
forever,
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
And you'll see different pictures of guys in tears and whatever. How could you not be?
We had a program when the museum was at the church, and
Was that when it was on like 43rd place?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
I remember helping out over there a little
And
bit.
it was, we called it the real squads. So most of the squad guys were all there and that, and Jack Gallipo was there in the audience, and Dick Scheid was with him. They drove together, and they were out in the audience. I'm up on the dais with the guys, and I didn't realize it, but here I got a copy of the International magazine, and I was looking at it for some reason, and on the back cover was this picture of Dick Scheid with it, and I'm holding it up, and not realizing that this picture is there, and Dick was out in the audience with Gallipo, and all of a sudden, Scheid is gone. Dick takes off. I talking to Jack later. I said, "What happened to Dick? He didn't come back." Figured he had to go to the bathroom or something. And that he said, "No." He says he saw you with that picture of him, and he was afraid that you were going to, bring him up and bring this up, and he left. He just did not want to talk
Well,
about
he
it.
was the uncle of the Scheids that we knew, right?
Was he?
Yeah.
Chuck Scheid was a fire captain in our neighborhood.
Yeah, and I think
Okay.
that was
Charles
his brother.
Chuck Senior.
Yeah,
That the family that we
Was he?
hung around with. As far as I know, it is.
yeah. He did have a brother.
Scheidt.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right,
Real
Right.
German spelling there.
right. Oh yeah.
All those consonants.
Yeah. But yeah, you don't get those guys. That's why I'm involved with it, and with OLA, and our website is olafire.com. And we in fact, I'm trying to get the police guys that were there too, get their pictures. And
I know at the
and
Fire
their
Museum they have that replica. You go to the
Oh,
fire- they
that's-
got that really nice replica
Yeah.
of OLA. And
Yeah. That guy did a great job on that.
it's incredible how
Yeah.
detailed that actually is.
Yeah.
So that's one of the pinnacles of the museum.
And
I
that's
think.
that's in this Gibbons's program.
Okay.
The picture, he has pictures of that.
Yeah.
And, yeah, he's been to the museum.
I haven't been there since we did our remote there. How many was that year? How many years
Oh
ago?
boy.
It was 2011.
Because when Joe
2011?
Gentile
2011?
died,
Okay.
Yeah.
we got word when we were there,
Sounds
right?
about
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
But
September the 10th, or was it October the 10th, 2011?
I think it was October.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, I keep telling the daughter and son-in-law take the kids over there and one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not this month though.
Tell him to bring. No, not this one.
We got my grandfather's
Next one
library.
will be in January.
Yeah, he's got my grandfather's got his library upstairs. So that was,
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
Ken Little library, isn't
Ken
it?
Little
It
library.
was a great ceremony too, and of
Yeah.
course he's making jokes the whole time. He's kind of
Oh,
a funny
yeah.
guy, you
Yeah.
know. So that was a really special day, though. So it
Now,
looks beautiful.
I
there.
suspect I know the answer already, but did he like a lot of books and stuff to hang on to? Or?
Oh sure, yeah. If you ever go to his house, he had books all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
So he was a big history type of buff in general too. You know, of the World War II and all these other types of historical events.
I noticed that if you get to be a historian, you look at everything from a historical aspect
Yeah.
perspective, because perspective, because whatever the endeavor might be, it didn't start when you and I learned about it. Be it baseball or whatever. There's always something went ahead of time.
Well,
and
that's one of the things that always kind of bothered me about younger people when I'd mention something and they'd say, "That was before I was born."
Yeah.
And my response to that is, well, the Civil War was before I was born, but I know who won.
Yeah. I always say, gee, Jesus and Abraham Lincoln, they were before your time too, but you've heard of them, haven't you?
Yeah, the world starts and stops on the day that you were born.
Did you get my not to change the subject, but did you get my email about the other great person that was born on Christmas Day?
I forgot.
Moshe Wolf.
Oh, really? He was born on Christmas?
Yes.
No, I
look at it
didn't. I
later.
didn't
I
get
didn't know
that.
that.
Yeah.
Wow. No
Yeah.
kidding.
Place the
Yeah.
Jewish police chaplain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great guy.
Heard the name.
Police and
yeah.
fire chaplain, right?
Is he fire chaplain too?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Mm.
FBI chaplain, Cook County chaplain.
He's cornered the market, huh?
Yes, he does.
Wow.
Great guy. Great
Yeah.
guy.
Such a deal, my son. Yeah, he is. Yeah.
Yeah,
But,
he's a good guy.
But what you just said, Tom, it's one thing not to know, but not want to know. it's,
Well, I don't know. I
They
mean,
don't
do
teach history.
Yeah,
in
I was
school
just going to
anymore.
say.
Yeah.
I mean, is that even a major in any colleges anymore? History majors?
I don't know. I've got one grandson that's interested in history, and I for Christmas a couple of years ago I bought him the archaeology from magazine and all the history magazines and all of that. I would hope that he stays on that. And
Well, I
I'm
know when
interested in it,
Oh, yeah.
archaeology where the
When I was
King
going,
Tut was.
when I was going to college, I remember the two big history classes were U.S. history prior, I think, to 1861, which is the Civil War.
That was like the cutoff.
Yeah,
Because
and
it was like before,
yeah,
like
and then-
revolutionary stuff, and then
Yeah,
Civil
and then
War and
after-
everything else.
And then after that,
Yeah.
but I don't really remember any other history classes.
Well, I had a good class on 20th century global conflicts, which I took in high school. So
Oh, okay.
started with World War II, and then going from there through Vietnam and Korea. Those were
I remember American history and world history, the two different
Yeah.
subjects that the Christian Brothers taught. I went to St. George, and it was the American and the world.
Oh yeah,
history.
well, in high school, we had history classes, geography. I don't know, do they teach that anymore?
I don't think so.
I don't.
Well,
doubt it.
there's some appalling statistics about people, the percentage of people that don't know if Mexico is north or south of the United States.
Right.
I mean,
And then-
really.
they couldn't locate Connecticut on a map or something.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
A bunch of kids thought that like the weather map will show the continental contiguous United States and Alaska and Hawaii here. They think Alaska and Hawaii are down
Yeah, it's
here.
actually right there in the south.
Yeah.
Yeah, the southwest. Yeah.
My daughter was not a very good student in school, but she has taught her kids very well, and probably learned to do it to them what she lacked. And in the kitchen, above the table, on the wall, on my tile wall, she has a big map of the world. And that has really helped.
Oh, sure.
With the different. Oh, yeah, there it is, and that's where so and so is, and that.
Yep.
That's really helped.
Time for a break. We'll
Okay,
pick this up when we
let's
get
break.
back, Bill.
Okay.
Well, friends, winter is here. And before we get any heavy snow, rain, or ice, you may want to check the roof on your siding and gutters on your home or your place of business. You don't want mold or mildew in your attic or crawl space, or drip, drip, drip on the ceilings in your rooms, or have your walls damaged by a leaky gutter or bad siding. So don't have double expense. Sooner or later, you're going to have to get them repaired. So call Best Brothers Roofing, Siding, and Gutters at area code 630-616-1359. Mike Besh will drive over in a shiny red pickup truck with ladders on top, and he will look at your roof, siding, and gutters and talk to you and go from there. He'll give you an estimate and you decide what you want to do, but don't have double expense. Call Best Brothers Roofing, Siding, and Gutters at area code 630-616-1359. Call for a free estimate today. Remember, it's now going into January, and we can have some pretty bad weather for the next few months. And like I said before, you don't want a leaky roof, you don't want bad siding, and you don't want bad gutters on your home, because it'll do damage, much damage, with that ice and rain that's about to come. So once again, call Best Brothers Roofing, Siding, and Gutters at area code 630-616-1359. Call today for a free estimate. Best Brothers Roofing, Siding, and Gutters. Once again, 630-616-1359.
The theme
And-
says we're back from our break. This is our Meet the Chicago Historians, our December Christmas show, and it's dedicated to our friend Ken Little, who passed away, what was it, a month ago? Or
December the 8th.
It was
December
this
8th?
month,
Okay,
December.
it was this month, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was that long. It's a few weeks back, and I wasn't able to get to the funeral myself. No travel means, and I can't drive now. Some people said I couldn't drive at all before, so... but anyway, where were we talking about history is or isn't taught, or it's an unknown subject that's been devalued, or
I think that's a good name. It's been devalued, and what more? What's the old saying? If you don't,
no, history will bound to repeat itself.
You're doomed. You're doomed to
Yeah.
repeat it.
Well,
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a few.
Well, this could sound like a conspiracy theory, but people on the left, they don't want you to know too much about what went on before. Or like, they don't even want to.
No, they don't.
You notice they don't even want us to know that the tax cut has resulted before in more cash going into the federal coffers because you have more people working, more people contributing. You know,
I like what they just came up with is that the president has ordered an audit of the Pentagon.
you know.
You know, those $85 hammers and $60 toilet seats that you can buy for
Yeah.
$4.50 an ace.
Right.
So they're going to audit again now the Pentagon. That should be very interesting because they've got 135 auditors. It's that big of a job. So you can imagine where the money went.
Mm-hmm.
And like you say, history repeats itself.
But that's a good thing to do. I mean,
Absolutely.
Should've
It's
been a long time
business.
ago.
It's business. He may not be a politician,
Yeah.
but he's a businessman.
He's not a politician.
No.
That's what got him elected.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
You know, appeal to the forgotten man. You know,
Yes.
people like us, we're supposed to shut up, go to work, pay your taxes, and whatever. You're not a recognized minority. You're not a what else, aren't we? We're just shut up. We'll be back to see you for your vote in 4 years or whatever.
Right. Hillary, for all the different reasons that she's trying to concoct the reason that she lost, and the reason that she lost is because she didn't appeal to the voters, and the only person supposedly in her camp that recognized that towards the end of the election was Bill.
Mm-hmm.
He said, you know what, we're losing these Midwest states. We got to do some campaigning.
Yeah.
And they laughed at him
Mm-hmm.
because they were shocked that people in, the Midwest actually have the right to vote.
Mm-hmm.
And had the
It's
brains
like-
to vote.
It's like the two female anchor women, news women in New York, and they actually said, because naturally the shock came over when Hillary, was shoo-in to win, and then lost, and they said, one said to the other, what's so shocking about this is I don't know one person that voted for Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure they don't know one person that voted for Donald
I
Trump.
think a lot of people were afraid to say that they voted for the conservative.
A lot of them
And,
also.
and the thing is, this Russian conspiracy, what's it been, a year and a half now, and they've come up with nothing?
They haven't found anything.
Yeah.
No.
But
I said to John, I said, I believe in it because I remember distinctly getting the phone call because I was planning on voting for Hillary, and I got the phone call that said, "This is Ivan. You would vote for Donald Trump." So up until that point, I mean, I was in Hillary's.
Hey, did you
camp.
record that phone call at all, Tom? No.
Here's an
Okay.
interesting point. They are making an accusation on the Trump campaign about colluding with the Russians
Right.
when their candidate the then Secretary of State was making these deals for getting money into the Clinton Foundation
Oh,
for
yeah.
selling this uranium to the Russians themselves.
Oh yeah.
I mean, no, come on now.
But that never comes up in CNN
That's the pot
or on the
calling the
news.
kettle black,
Right.
isn't it?
Yeah, and you never heard that. You know about it because you're educated. They never say that on the news, though, right?
That's interesting. I just saw on YouTube. I saw Denzel Washington, and some dumb white idiot white is interviewing him. Who was he thinking the most important topics or whether for president? He said, "Well, I have to give that some thought. I'm not, what the best issues are right now." Then he said he wanted to know, who do you vote for? He said, none of your business. That's none of your business. Who I voted for, just like that. He also said, remember this. If you don't read a newspaper, you're uninformed. If you do read a newspaper, you're misinformed. So I mean, isn't that is just beautiful?
Well,
I was so
well,
glad
that's
you
like
say that.
prior to the election, all of the experts, in quotations,
Mhm.
all these different scenarios are popping into my head. One that comes in that I remember vividly. One of the experts, he was standing in front of a map of the United States, and he had a whiteboard, and he had an iPad, and this is prior to the Republican National Convention. And he was explaining how it was absolutely impossible for Donald Trump to get the nomination on the first ballot. It was impossible. There was no possible way that it could happen. And he showed the electoral votes in this state and this, and he almost, I mean, it was so in depth. He almost named the delegates by name.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what? He was completely wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Supposedly, the New York Times, the day of the election, gave Trump, I think, a 30% chance of winning. Some other newspaper gave Hillary 100%. There was no way she could lose.
Yeah.
And every one of them was wrong.
We're I don't know what word to use. We're told how to think by the media, and that's been wrong for a long time.
But the thing is, how long do you listen to a so-called expert that is consistently wrong before you say, you know what, I don't think I want to listen to this guy anymore? The same people.
Well,
that-
exactly. Who says that they're an expert, though?
Right.
That's the question.
Well, they validate one another.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I'll validate you. You validate me. The same people that were talking about Donald Trump not having a chance of winning are the same people that talk about Donald Trump's popularity. Oh, it's the lowest popularity in the history of the country. Says who? You know, who are they
Right.
talking to?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, some of these people are just so out of touch with reality that it's it's a joke.
Another thing, along with what you just said, when the election actually happened and it showed that Trump won, they unashamedly started, this is a sad day, and they're supposed to be reporting on the election
Yes.
and coverage. Now, yeah, there's a time for opinion, but it's not supposed to be then. Sad day. The one guy said this is all a white backlash, or what he said, a white lash, was it Rachel Maddow
Oh, brother.
was crying just about, and
Yeah.
so was what's her name,
They
Megyn Kelly.
in trying to figure out why Hillary lost. It's painfully, one of my
Obvious.
favorite
Yeah, what you
one of my
said.
favorite lines is
Yeah.
genius is the ability to detect the obvious.
Yeah.
And for anyone that doesn't know what that means, I'll explain it very simply. Two guys go to buy a horse on the same day, so they both buy a horse. So now the one guy says to the other one, hey, how are we going to tell our horses apart? And the one guy says, well, I'll grow my horse's tail long and you cut yours short, and then mine will be the one with the long tail. They said, well, we can't do that because the tail will grow back. And so he said, well, how about this? I'll cut the mane on my horse real short, and then mine will be the one with the short mane. No, we can't do that either because it'll grow back. So there's a guy standing there watching them. And he says, well, why don't you just do this? Why don't yours will be the black horse and yours will be the white horse? You know, genius, the ability to detect the obvious. Now that's a humorous way to say, you know, why did Hillary lose the election?
She was a terrible candidate.
Yeah,
she had
right.
nothing to offer.
Yeah.
She was quick. Remember the remark was she was going to put coal companies and coal miners out of business. She tried to walk that one back. There goes Pennsylvania, West Virginia, you know, right?
She thought that she was entitled
Oh yeah, entitlement.
to
exactly.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She spent a lot of money too.
Oh,
A lot of
boy.
wasted
More than he
dollars.
did, a lot more.
Oh yeah.
Didn't she also have fireworks ready to go?
Oh, she had they
Yeah.
had the whole thing all
Yep.
ready to go. They couldn't believe that they lost.
Yep.
I know I fell asleep, but I was afraid it was still tight when I fell asleep, and I woke up and said, "Oh my God," because, well, you know, everyone is entitled to their opinion, but if she was appointing someone to the Supreme Court, who would this be? Eric Holder, something like that.
She had a Black Lives Matter organizer on her campaign staff.
Yeah.
That was enough for me.
Yeah.
She wouldn't
Yeah,
even
no conflict of interest there, right?
Yeah.
She wouldn't even entertain the to try to get the endorsement of the National Fraternal Order
Yeah,
of
she
Police.
wouldn't even
remember?
speak. She was invited to appear before the Fraternal Order of Police, which is the largest national police organization, and she declined. You know, she made a lot of mistakes, and now she's trying to blame the Russians, I guess, or whoever.
You can't get by on what your favorite line is. You know, isn't it time we had a woman president?
Yeah.
You know,
She was a terrible campaigner.
Yeah.
You know, she supposedly she had speech coaches, and you know, the line, "Isn't it time that we have a woman in the White House?" You know, I mean, you know, I'm no
Sexist.
public speaking expert, but that's not the way you deliver that line.
yeah,
That line is delivered, "It's time we had a woman in the White House."
right.
That's how that line is delivered.
Yeah.
It's not, "Don't you think it's
But-
time?" I mean, she was a terrible kid.
But actually, how many women did Bill have in the White House?
That's right.
I don't think anybody knows.
Yeah,
At what time?
yeah. This is something for Guinness Book of Records. But
Oh, boy.
Letterman did a spoof. It was supposed to be the opening of the Bachelor, and they had all the women out there, and they were bringing the Bachelor, and they showed a picture of Clinton coming down the hallway, video of that. So. But anyway, I used to actually watch Letterman all the time, and he just got to be too much of a hitman for the left for me.
I used to watch, what's this guy, Colbert?
Yeah.
Oh,
On Channel
Stephen
2,
Stephen Cole.
But not anymore.
No.
Yeah,
not
they've
anymore.
all gone off the deep end.
Oh, yeah.
Jimmy Kimmel.
Jimmy
uh,
Kimmel's another one. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what's the point? You know, I like a joke, you know, better than anybody. But
Well, it's like keep it out, keep the politics out of it.
Johnny
you know?
Carson
It's
was
like-
Johnny Carson was a master at it. He did it.
Oh, you
for
kid all of
years,
them.
and
You kid all
Jay,
Pauls.
and Jay Leno.
Yeah.
no,
Jay
I know.
Leno too. But now you turn on and all you're getting is leftist propaganda.
Jimmy Kimmel was on with holding his son, saying about how the billionaires are getting big breaks now, and poor kids can't get, health care or something. I mean, okay, his kids had a problem. Sympathize with him. Just like this past, was it 2 weeks ago or last week? What's her first name? Is it Megan McCain? McCain's daughter was on the View with
John
Joe.
McCain's daughter?
with Joe Biden, and she got all filled up about her father with the brain
Oh.
tumor or something.
Oh, okay.
And
okay.
he really, you got to give him credit. Putting politics aside, he just came out and he said some positive words to her and did the right thing. Give him credit where credit is due.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like just be a gentleman. You
There
don't
you
have
go.
to. It's like keep the politics out of it, and do your job.
There's no
especially-
politics there. That's a family thing.
No, yeah, it's called being a good person.
That's just like maybe I didn't like Irv Kupson, but I felt bad when his daughter got killed for him.
Yeah. So
Maybe I didn't. Maybe I did. I don't know.
I don't know.
Irv was a quarterback for Philadelphia Eagles in like 1935, one season.
As you notice, Kate, our guest here, little
Yeah.
Kate, said it's all right to put the Bears coat on her today. They won the other day, so
Because they
she's
just happened
not-
to win.
Well, yeah, she's not embarrassed anymore. You know,
Yeah.
it's, either that, or I have to put the Cubs one on.
As I
Well,
said,
they
they beat the worst team in football.
Yeah.
That's what they did. They
Well,
beat the Browns.
plus,
so.
what they also did, not only did they cover the spread for that game, but they covered the over-under total wins for the season, which preseason was 4.5. And the bookies got buried on that one because
Yeah.
there was a ton of bear money at the beginning of the season. 4.5 total wins.
Yep.
All, as a matter of fact, they even adjusted the odds. You had to lay 150 to win 100 because there was so much bear money.
Really?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, at the beginning of the season, you think the Bears are going to
Sure.
win 5 games? Everybody said, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I see
and
what
they
you're
bet,
saying,
and they bet them
So what is their record now?
5 and 10.
Is it
5 and 10. Yeah.
Yeah, one game left.
Yep.
Yep.
And everyone says that game supposedly is going to be a lock for the Bears. I guess they're getting 11 points. In Minnesota, they say that Minnesota might not even start their first string.
Yeah, they're in.
Yeah, they're in. So that might be another for you gamblers that are listening to the program. Bet the Bears take the points.
Well, there's another area that they've got to come down to earth. Is the NFL and the commissioner.
Oh yeah.
He wouldn't remember Dallas Cowboys last season, not this current one, but they wanted to put a decal, an emblem on their helmet commemorating the 4 or 5 policemen were killed that one night.
Mhm.
Wouldn't let that happen.
They wouldn't let Tim Tebow kneel to pray.
That's right.
They had no problem telling him get up.
Yeah.
So they should have nipped that in the bud. It just grew out of proportion. And the thing is, it really bothers me. The media. I mean, everyone's attacking the media, and there's a reason for that. Michael Bennett, the Seattle Seahawks player, got involved in an altercation with the Las Vegas Metro Police Department. He went public with it. His original statement was he was leaving, and I'm very familiar with this area. The casino was called Cromwell's. Now, it was called the Barbary Coast for years, and there's a after-hours nightclub in there called Dre's. Well, I guess he was in that club. And according to him, there was a shot fired, and he was walking out of the hotel with a bunch of white people, and he was singled out by the Las Vegas Police Department because he was black. And he was detained, and they put a gun to his head and told him they were going to blow his head off. And when I originally heard that story, I said, well, that's unfortunate. Until, and as we all know, you can't go anywhere in the city of Las Vegas without being on video.
Sure.
Mhm.
Yep.
I got to give credit. The sheriff of the Metropolitan Police Department, I'll think of his name, he held a press conference. He showed the video of Michael Bennett. Not one single word that came out of Bennett's mouth about the incident was true. Nothing. Zero. It was a complete, total lie. And the sheriff went step by step. You can go on the internet and see this for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
The first time that Bennett appears on tape, now here's what the incident. Someone dropped a stanchion, it hit the tile floor, and it sounded like a gunshot. So the police were responding to shots fired. It wasn't shots fired, but that's the call that they were responding to. Bennett runs, for his first appearance on the video, he runs crouched down and hides behind a group of slot machines because the police were coming in. Why he was doing this, I have no idea. But slightly different story as to walking out with a bunch of white people. The next time he appears on tape, he is running running out the back door of the casino, and I'm very familiar with that area. I guess the police that were outside told him to stop. He jumped over a 7-foot wall into traffic on Flamingo Boulevard. That's where he had the first contact with the police. And one of the police had the video camera and recorder and explained to him, we got to call the shots fired here. We see you running, jumping over a wall. We don't know who you are.
Right.
And as soon as they found out who he was, they released him.
Yeah.
Now that's slightly different than the original story about he was walking out with a bunch of white people and was singled out because he was black.
Using
The
racial
prob-
slurs on him too, right?
The problem is the media reported the first report like it was true, which it wasn't, and then the truth, they didn't report at all. Now that's why people
Well, they
get
say the media. The media.
That's why people get upset.
Yeah.
See, but it's all about getting it out first. Even though it doesn't have to be true. As long as we're the first to break it or whatever, that's where the money is.
And he also said in his original story about the white police,
Yeah.
the two police officers that had contact with him, one was black and one was Hispanic. So, I mean, are you kidding me? Really? Seriously? You know, shouldn't the media have gone on and said, you know what? We reported a story about Michael Bennett yesterday. We just found out that, that was completely false.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, nothing.
No, they won't retract anything.
If they do, it's in page 37. or
Yeah,
something,
yeah,
Maybe, you know.
yeah. Well, there was another story about something happened on an airplane where they gave a first class seat to.
Oh yeah, that was a representative. What was her name? Lee. Yeah, they gave her the first class ticket,
Federal, yeah.
and the girl that had the seat, she complained. She took a picture of her sitting in the seat, and naturally, the black congresswoman's response: the Trump card.
Yeah.
Excuse the pun. The Trump
Yeah.
card. Racist.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
only reason she complained is because I'm a black woman sitting in first class. No, the reason she complained is that's her seat.
Mm-hmm.
And you're sitting in it. And I would be upset myself.
She's a congressman?
Yeah, Congresswoman.
Yeah. Yeah, that just happened here a few days ago. But it's this racism stuff is
So
well,
we're
it
go-
has been for a long time, way out of hand. There's as many racists on the other side as there is on
Sure.
on our side, so to speak.
At least. At
Oh
least,
yeah. Oh yeah. There's a couple, and without mentioning names, there's a couple on from the fire department that I know are complete racist. Black people.
Yeah.
They are complete racist, and yet I see them on the TV all the time. They were just on here not too long ago.
They got some rank too, you mean?
Oh yeah, yeah. And the one member is police too, and they are the complete racist.
You know,
Well, that one college professor told her students that blacks can't be racist.
Yeah.
Only white people can be racist.
You know, they're teaching now their classes on how to combat white privilege or whatever.
Yeah.
How to combat, or to teach
White
white guilt,
privilege.
basically. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Sad.
Yeah, I remember when we come on the job, hear from people, you got it made, you'll be a boy, you're an Irish. Well, I was a probationary patrolman at the time, and after 34 years of diligence, I worked myself up to patrolman first class. So, I mean, it was just very privileged for you, right? But,
Oh boy, I tell you what. Well, you know, we're getting off the
subject, I know.
the
We'll get back to
subject
it.
of Ken Little, but
We'll get
I
back
will
to him.
tell you, as long as I knew Ken Little, there was nothing. Everybody was even, Stephen.
Oh,
with,
sure.
With Ken Little.
As long as you know he's kind of a nice person or whatever,
Yep.
nice guy, Ken would talk to him, so he didn't have a
Exactly.
problem with anybody. No.
You know why?
He had a lot of black friends.
You know what that is? You see someone as an individual. You don't paint with a broad brush.
Right.
You know, as you said, it's stupid to say they couldn't be a racist. Really? Why would that be? I mean, that's as ridiculous as saying that they're there aren't any white racists. We know there are. And there's some people who just have bad language. They just don't aren't very cultured. They just don't know any better. But whereabouts did your grandpa grow up?
Well, because later on he was living on Patterson. I know that, which is where I used to go visit him, 4800 block. But I know he grew up east of there. I want to say he grew up. I think he was right off like the Brown line. He was close to North Avenue.
Off by St. Michael's.
Was he around where the church was? With the
Yeah,
funeral?
he wasn't far from there. I'm sorry, I don't remember the exact address, but yeah, he was in the area because I used to take the Brown line to go to work.
Where they put the projects there. Cabrini Green.
Cabrini Green, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I used to actually work on Kingsbury Street, and right off I used to take the division bus, and so he commented on it. He's like, Tim, I used to live right around there, and so we
And
used
where
to
did
take
you go to
rides
school?
over there.
You know?
And off the top of my head, I don't
No?
know.
Do you know where he went to high
St.
school?
Michael's, probably.
Did you go to high school where?
Oh, high school? Didn't he go to Lane?
High school, I'm not sure. I don't know.
Huh?
No.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
remember him saying that.
Oh, yeah, you meant grade school. I think he went to Michael's, but I don't know
Yeah.
for high school or anything else. Lane, yeah,
He did go to Lane,
he
John?
did.
Okay.
Because I mean, my dad went to Lane. A lot of my
Yeah.
other uncles did. So yeah.
We had a teacher, Mr. Racky. His father was the principal there when we were in school, right? Lane Tech Indians, isn't that right? No, it's
Mhm.
Isn't that,
Are they still the Indians? Or
I think so. Probably
so
not.
Is that politically incorrect?
Will they be?
Probably, yeah.
Here's a term for you. Native American. A Native American. Were you born in the U.S.?
Yeah.
Are you a citizen? Native American.
Yeah.
That's
We-
right.
We know what they mean,
Yeah,
but it's so
yeah.
silly. I want to say Aboriginal American. That would be more like it. And with that happy note, we are at time for another BREAK.
I thought it was B-R-A-K-E.
Either way.
Do you suffer from pain? Do you know someone that has constant pain of their low back, neck, shoulder, knee, or wrist? Have they tried medications, exercise, physical therapy, or chiropractic, and nothing seemed to make it better? Well, I may have your answer. Why not try a napropath? Hi everybody, this is Dr. Wayne Chickowitz, and I've been practicing 30 years treating pain. I'm board certified and hold a diplomate in pain management. For your convenience, we have 2 locations. In Cicero, 3602 South 61st Avenue, 708-656-7000, or in Villa Park at 122 West St. Charles Road, Suite 1A, 630-833-4007. Why not try a napropath and stop the pain today?
Here we go. Here we go. This is where the buck passing stops. Starting hour 2. Hour 2. Okay, let's get back on the subject. Ken Little. Now, Ken, he grew up around North Avenue in Cleveland, was it, or was it around the neighborhood?
Around there.
Right around there.
Around the church, around the his
So
church and school.
he
yeah.
moved out when they got married, or still around there still? You know, I'm asking you. I mean, I know you weren't there, but I mean,
Well, it's interesting though, because he told me he's like, because I remember when I turned 21, he's like, Tim, my life really kind of took off right when I was 21, because he said he was, in the service, and then he's like, as we were talking about earlier, he's like, I did a little bit of accounting, and then after that moved out, had the big family and everything, and
was he an MP, wasn't he? Did he say that?
Right.
yeah, well, it's funny because he had a Jeep, and that was one of my gifts to me. He's like, Tim, I used to drive a Jeep in the service, and I'll give you my Grand Cherokee for a gift. So.
Yeah, a Jeep.
Jeep, yeah.
Yeah.
So he loved driving those things. So
You still got one?
No,
I mean, a real Jeep.
I don't have it anymore. No,
You do have a Jeep.
no.
You did have one?
He
A
had,
toy.
he had a Grand Cherokee, but yeah,
Cherokee.
yeah,
Oh,
So.
That I got.
yeah.
that sounds like a racial slur to me. A Cherokee.
Laredo, Grand Cherokee. Yeah.
Laredo, that's all. Once again, streets of Laredo.
Yeah.
No good. But
So, but yeah, he loved. So he had plenty of stories that he would share with me about his time there.
so let's see now. In the Army, was it up around the Northwest somewhere? Wasn't he stationed?
Yeah, I think he was in. I believe it was the state of Washington. Actually,
Yeah.
because my one uncle was born. My Uncle Ken was born in Washington. So I think that's where he was at.
We have a mystery guest coming in. Sign in, please. Yeah. It's Alfred E. Newman. No.
He arrived by dog sled. That's right.
Yeah. Anyway, we had too much dead time here. So he had the Army, and was he married when he was in the Army, or no? When he get out?
I want to say it was
You know?
when he got out because that's when he, like I said, that's when he kind of formed a
Because
family.
people did, were married already. My dad was married,
Yeah.
had a daughter. My older sister was born. He was drafted into the Army. Of course, that was World War II. And he wasn't drafted right away because his vision wasn't too good. He wore glasses when he was in 5th grade or something on. But the requirements started going down as the war went on. And he was an electrician's mate in the Second World War Navy. And, of course, my Uncle Ed, was blind in one eye, and they took him as a clerk. He became a clerk in the Army. So he was told later when he was being discharged he didn't have to go. I mean, he was already been there. So, yeah, right, yeah. You wouldn't have to go, but they did. But anyway, that's not to change the subject. It's about Ken. But anyway, what you say he was in accounting for a while? Accounting?
He did it briefly, yeah. He, I think maybe like a year or two. He started off doing that, and then he's like, well, now I think I'd rather be, like a dispatcher, and go work for the.
You mean it was like boring or?
Yeah, he's like, I'd rather, I like going around to different, fires and stuff, and I know all the streets. Why don't I go see if I can get a job in the
A
office?
little practical application of his already existing knowledge, right?
Yeah.
Bob Newhart started out as an accountant, I understand, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I've heard that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
St.
So-
Ignatius
Yeah.
and Loyola graduate.
Yeah.
I think Don Rickles said that he should have stayed with that profession.
Yeah, right.
Mystery voice you're hearing. Introduce yourself.
My name is John Escachoco, and I'm very glad to be here in the middle of the December Christmas edition of Meet the Chicago Historians, and certainly to pay tribute to a great guy that I didn't have the pleasure to know for a long period of time, as long as some of the others at this table. But he was certainly an impressive man, a great historian, and a very affable and likable man. And when someone has that level of knowledge and is still able to be a great guy, that's a fine
Right.
combination.
Amen.
And
Amen.
that was a description of Ken Little. Great guy.
He's quick to smile, quick to laugh, and quick to
Amen.
give a laugh.
Right.
And quick to give a story too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Such a soft-spoken guy, too. He was never would have made it in politics like that. I know that. Never get in.
No, he was a straight shooter. I'll tell
Yeah.
you. He told it like it was, but he was a straight shooter though. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, so he did this accounting. Who do you work? That took a degree of some sort, or do you know? Or
I don't think so. I think he might have had some sort of today they have the certifications. He might have had some sort of certification that he had, or maybe in like high school or something. But he said he did it for like I say, like a year or two, and he's like, I'd rather work in the as a dispatcher, and so because I like taking pictures of At this point, he had been going around taking my, my dad and a couple of my other uncles out to fires and taking pictures and everything. So he knew all the streets by then. So, but
yeah.
yeah.
That's not, if people don't think about that, is something to say, because Chicago, I mean, it's like it's a conglomerate of so many communities, and it wasn't all just up at once. It was all joined at different times, and
Oh sure. Yeah.
different terrain, different architecture.
Yeah.
Look like you're in a different place.
If people are born and raised in Chicago on the south side and never travel to the north side and vice versa.
Yeah.
Policemen, I know policemen that have been on the job 30 years and have never been into half of the districts in the city of Chicago. Probably less than that, maybe one or two.
Yeah, I know. We took the kids somewhere, and I forget where it was. I was on the north side, and someone goes, "How did you know about that?" Like this, you're going, like your brother said, like you're going to Spain or something like that. It wasn't trip. It's only across town a little bit. Just look a little bit. That's all. It's always isn't bad to venture
Right.
too. By the way, out.
Then we have the southeast side, where people can't believe there actually is an east side in the city of Chicago.
Yeah, or they ran out of street names, so you get letters. Avenue O, Avenue A, you know.
Yeah, people do know of it. They just think it's Indiana.
Hegwishians.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
And the east side in Hegwish. And right along Indianapolis Boulevard there, one side is Indiana, the other side is Chicago. So if you cross over, you're leaving a county, a state, a zip code, an area code, what else?
And when I worked the
Township.
A region.
when I worked the Skyway, I told people I had a job that took me out of state quite a bit. Every time I turned around, I was in Indiana.
That's right. Yeah.
Make the U-turn, come right back. Yeah.
Okay, the Skyway, it opened up when, about 59 or somewhere around there? Yeah.
Sounds
Yeah,
good.
It
that
was
was
the
a-
Calumet Skyway originally.
That was another great Daley move. It was against the law to build a toll road in the city, so he built a toll bridge.
Wasn't it a private originally?
Yeah.
And he-
They used to it was a police detail. They used to pay the city for the use of the police. They were Chicago police cars and Chicago police officers, but they were detailed to the
Mhm.
to the Skyway. But I think it was an authority,
Mhm.
the Skyway Authority.
But then eventually that went under and the city bought it out or something, right? Wasn't it?
Yeah.
As they said in economics, because something has failed, what are you going to do? Turn it back into gravel? But here it is, it's already built, so jack up the prices.
But I can imagine at some meeting they said, well, let's do this.
Who said that?
Politicians.
Well, it was all the workers there. That was 100% patronage jobs. Every worker there came right out of the ward office. Most of them worked for out of the 10th Ward, Verdoliak's ward.
He's sure doing a lot of advertising on TV now.
Yeah, those are his kids.
Yeah.
Kids, yeah.
His son. He's in trouble again.
Who? Ed?
Yeah.
Ed is,
What's wrong now?
Yeah.
Well, supposedly it was one of Obama's last paybacks for the Harold Washington and the other opposing aldermen. Verdoliak was one of them. So supposedly the Obama turned the Justice Department on Verdoliak, one of his last acts.
Oh.
Just like releasing that the report about the Chicago Police Department is one of his last acts. Thank God Sessions is in there and kind of filed it. He said there's a lot of
In the circular file?
lot of anecdotal stories, and there were. You know, they'd hold a meeting, and somebody would come and say how they were abused by the police department, and they'd log it in as fact.
Kind of like Bennett, huh?
Yeah, that's just it was just a story.
Let's not forget about Ken. Just right after Ken had passed away, in fact, Rich Lang, our announcer who was under the weather today, he called me and told me that in the Chicago Sun-Times, on page 10, they had a full-page write-up about Ken and Father McNellis when they were writing their book. Ken wrote many books about the Chicago firehouses and different things that happened in the city of Chicago with the Chicago Fire Department. And I know when I was president of the 511 Club, which Ken was a honorary member of the 511 Club, one day I had asked him if there was any possibility that we could bring our members up to the fire alarm office. That's when it was in City Hall. I think it was in room 605, wasn't it, Tim? Where the fire alarm office is, and he's, oh my God, yes. And he made all the arrangements with the security people at City Hall and everybody, and we brought our members up to the fire alarm office, and we got to see how fires were dispatched and how things happen up there. It was very, 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 very interesting. And Ken has always been a favorite in my heart. And I will say this much, that Ken always told everybody that I was his idol. And he was very happy to know what a great interest I took in him, Ken Little, and also the Chicago Fire Department and all of his activities.
Well, John, it's interesting you point that out because that came up quite a bit in some of the stories we had right after the funeral, the luncheon. So he did that to a lot of people. He was
Yes.
always willing to bring them up and kind of show them the ropes, so to speak.
That's
So,
right. Exactly, Tim. Exactly. Ken would not hurt anybody. He wouldn't even hurt a fly if it flew past and landed on his nose. He was very, very easygoing. I asked one time I had something I wanted to talk to Ken about, and he's come on over. He says, and we sat and we discussed the item, and he was always on my side, and he was always for the 511 Club, 101%. And the only thing I got to say is, Ken, we miss you. May your soul rest in peace, and I hope that you are together with his wife, because his wife was passed away many years before Ken did, about 31 years. I
Alice.
heard. Yeah.
That long ago, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. She died in the
And-
1980s. Yeah.
And I knew the little family right after I joined the 511 Club. In fact, Tim's father, Steve, worked for me at a company in downtown Chicago called Advanced Process Supply. He was one of my maintenance people, and he was also, when I had electrical jobs to do, a couple houses I had to rewire. Steve was always with me, and Ken always thanked me for taking Steve under my wing and helping him and showing him different things. So I have a lot of good things to say about the Little family from A to Z.
Now, were there involvement, fire family before Ken's time, or do you know, or is it, no? No?
Not really that I'm aware of. No, I mean Ken kind of started that whole thing. I think and so like I say, he used to take my dad out, to chase fires or whatever and take pictures. And of course, he's got his massive collection of photos that's down at the academy, and
Yeah.
and he's got his books that he's got 4, I believe, is what he's got.
Yeah.
So pretty impressive. So.
I think he grow up around Truck 10's old house, somewhere around there.
Which is
and,
where?
And near St. Michael's.
Not too far
Okay,
from
up
St.
that way?
Michael's.
Yeah.
St. Michael's. Yeah.
And
He's told me a lot of stories about Truck 10.
Yeah, and that's kind of where he, he'd hear the sirens and hang out.
Yep. That's a good point.
Tim, can you tell us any stories about your grandpa? Like you said, he used
Yes.
to tell you. Go ahead. You got the
The ones
mic.
that we can put on the air now, Tim.
Well, thank you for that little disclaimer there. Yeah. Well, I remember he used to like, especially later years, he liked going. We mentioned Hegwish earlier, and he liked going to the south side. He liked taking a little ride out there because it got him out of the house later on in his life. And he would often say, bring Tim along. So this one time we went out to the stockyards. Okay, and we were kind of, it was for me, I'd never been out there, so it's a little bit crazy out there with all the tracks and everything. And then we'd go back and get a bite at Lindy's over right off of Damon.
Lindy's Chili.
Yeah, he loved their
What,
chili.
Archer Avenue?
Yep.
Yeah, in Archer.
Yeah,
Yeah,
It's the original location, yeah.
yeah. So we'd be at the stockyards for most of the day, and he'd be telling us stories and stuff out there. And so we kind of live where I live right now. I'm on the northwest side, right off of Foster and Canfield is where I live right now, and it's kind of like a suburban type of place. No alleys or anything like that. Pops used to always say, this reminds me of the suburbs. You're not really in the city, Steve. You're in the suburbs. And so we're driving around the stockyards, and he made some off-the-cuff weird comment. He's like, Steve, this looks kind of like where you live right now. And my dad's like, I don't know, Pops. I don't know where you're looking, but I don't. This doesn't quite remind me of home. But,
Now, how old are you?
I'm 27. I just
So
turned
there couldn't
27.
have really been much stock left at the time in the stockyards. It wasn't going like it had been, right?
Probably quite a different story from what
Yeah, it
I've
was
been
like
told.
industrial park by then.
Yeah.
Mostly, yeah.
So, but I mean, for me, it looked totally foreign to me. Even the
Yeah, it
first time
was,
I'd
yeah.
ever been around there, it's like it's all tracks, and it all looks like a bunch of old abandoned stuff around
Mm-hmm.
there. But Pops got such a kick out of it. He's like, okay, well now we're done driving around here. Now let's go get something to eat, Steve.
And there's an Exchange Street or Exchange Avenue, and there's Exchange on the southeast side. That could be
Yeah.
confusing.
Right.
Exchange right there. What is it?
Firehouse was right there. Exchange.
Is it? I mean, at the stockyards?
Right by the
Yeah.
arch.
I think
Yeah.
we did go past it too, and so
Yeah.
Pops pointed that out. He's like, "Here's the firehouse," you know. And
The old amphitheater, was that still there? The amphitheater, or no?
oh, that I don't know. I
At
don't.
that time, sure.
Yeah, it would have been there.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was there until the 70s.
I didn't realize the International Amphitheater was only like built in 1934. That was a lot older. When I looked this up, you
That
know.
was one of the classic lines in the '68 convention when they were talking about Mayor Daley, and they said there are a lot of politicians that can say they brought a national convention to their state. There are a few politicians that can say they brought a national convention to their city, but there is only one politician that can say he brought a convention to his neighborhood.
Who's that?
Mayor Daley.
Yeah, I well remember. Gee, do you remember that by any chance? Were you
Yeah, I have
active?
a vague vague remembrance of being right in the middle of all of that in 1960. As a matter of fact, they every so often, how long ago was that? You still see films of Chicago police and the
Almost 50 years now. It's 49 years.
and the
yeah.
demonstrators on television.
Mhm.
Because my kids, when they watch it, they say, "Dad, did you ever see yourself on television?" I said, "Yeah." And when we were putting the guy into the wagon, I was the guy with the good backhand.
Well, Tom, you're the one who said when they had the moonwalk, every time they showed the Earth, you would wave so you could say you were on television. Remember?
Right.
That was '69, a year later. But it's hard to believe that all that time has transpired since then.
I've got a friend of mine that has, in fact, if anybody wants to, just the people here, if they'd like to have one, I've got them there called a flashlight baton. And I showed it to a couple of coppers the other day. I said, "You want it?" And he looked at me and he says, "Oh, man, for the good old days."
Mm-hmm.
It's and it is a baton. It's for defense of some put in the car, you know, for some woman that
Yeah.
needs
That
something.
was another prime example. We were talking about the media bias earlier, and the media did a real nice hatchet job on the Chicago Police Department in the city during the '68 convention.
Are you suggesting that the media was not fair to the Chicago police in
I know,
1968?
John, you're
It's hard
shocked.
to believe.
I know, it
John,
sounds crazy.
You're shocked. But what's interesting about it, they asked Muskie was Humphrey's running mate,
Right.
Edmund Muskie from Maine.
and
right?
he was being interviewed. I forget what the show was, and they said, as you traveled around during your campaign, what did you find about the sentiment in the rest of the country about what occurred in the city of Chicago? And he said, surprisingly enough, we found overwhelming support for Mayor Daley and the Chicago Police Department. And as a Chicago police officer at the time, I remember, while the media was calling us every name in the book, I mean, for months and probably
Every
a couple-
dirty name in
a
the book.
couple years after that, you'd see, I'd be downtown in uniform and you'd see tourists and they'd be looking at you like, well, you know,
Can you go
he
near him?
looks he looks all right, but I don't know. They sure must have been bad guys. But again, it's just the disconnection between the real world and the news media.
Now, who was it? Was it Ribicoff who coined the phrase Gestapo tactics? in
Yeah, I
the
think it
streets?
was. Yeah.
I remember Ribicoff saying how hard it is. He kept saying that over and over. When he was getting blowback from the Illinois delegation were hollering and booing, and he said how hard it is to accept the truth.
Yeah.
I don't think Ribicoff could have been elected dog catcher in Illinois if he
Was he
if
from
had
Connecticut?
Connecticut, I believe. Yeah.
Was he a senator?
United States Senator. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's funny the similarities, how long ago it was with the demonstrators then and now, the professional demonstrators and rioters. And I remember there was a woman, they called her Hanoi Hannah. She wore like a World War I helmet, pie plate helmet, And every night, because we were standing in front of the Hilton, the demonstrators were on the grass, and we were on the sidewalk in front of the Hilton. And they had their own PA system set up. And she would come running in, with news from the front. And I remember one night they would cite the crowd. She said, very breathless, I just returned from Lincoln Park. They are beating a demonstration of nuns and priests. I don't know how many. I know one nun is dead, and it was just completely made up. And the crowd would go crazy and start throwing stuff at us. And they're doing the exact same thing in these demonstrations.
They were
today.
so stupid that they would believe that Chicago police officers, most of whom were Roman Catholic, would be
Right.
pounding and beating up priests and nuns.
Yeah.
Well, wait a minute. Now, maybe we got a right to. Here's the point. You brought this up a long time ago. I was never hit by a policeman, but I was hit by nuns, priests,
Yeah,
lay
right.
teachers with open fist, closed fist, open hand, closed fist,
paddles,
rulers, paddles, straps.
rulers,
The Christian Brothers were not too nice either at
Yeah.
times.
Those paddles, remember?
Yeah.
They drill holes in them for some more aerodynamic.
That was coming from the other direction, though. That was priests and nuns.
Yeah. But,
oh, boy.
But my dad had said this a long time ago. He says, if you go back to the 30s and maybe even the 20s, those people marching, they looked exactly the same. If you look at their faces, all these discontent types, they're just. You
Well,
can
the-
see a lot. There's
the professional demonstrators are my present Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky,
yeah.
the wonderful person that she is. Her husband, they had him on tape talking about I think it was 1,500 apiece to demonstrate at the Trump rally.
To start fights, wasn't it?
And now here's the unions are all backing the Democrats. Here's a Democrat. And you know what he says? He says, "Yeah, I like to organize when I can bring in some Teamsters, because those guys they're so stupid. They'll do anything. I mean, are you kidding me? I mean, shouldn't somebody? I mean, that guy should have been prosecuted because there was a police officer that was pretty severely injured in that Trump fiasco.
At the UIC, right?
Yeah, and these
Yeah,
were all people who were brought in and paid for by the Democratic Party.
I don't know about that one reporter from New York. When I have to ask my grandson, he knew the guy, but he was pretty much beat up too. I don't think anything happened about it. But they're paid agitators. That's all.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all.
Yeah, and then they got
It's a new line of work.
they got them paid, and they got the chumps who go along. They think they're some kind of a cause. Then
Yeah.
you've got those who are there for a lark, just of entertainment for themselves.
They think they're smarter than everyone. That's
Oh,
the
yeah.
thing. It's like
Oh, God, yes.
we know more because we happen to watch what we see on the news and take it to faith, and they would never lie to us.
Right. They,
So arrogant.
right, they believe they have the moral high ground.
Oh, yes.
Yes. Yes.
If you oppose them, you're either a boob or a bigot or both.
Right.
Yeah,
Well,
what
like
happened to like a friendly debate? Let's debate the issues, right?
They
There's
don't
no
want to.
debate.
They're not interested
there is
in
no
debate.
debate. And
They're
that's
they want to
yeah.
shut down everyone who disagrees with them.
For
Their
someone
idea-
who are
anyone
liberal,
who disagrees with them is
Yeah.
a bigot and has no right to be heard.
called a liberal, but they're not liberal at all.
That's
Joel,
the
we're
greatest
liberal.
irony is that what they call themselves.
Yeah,
what
right.
they-
At Berkeley, supposedly the birthplace of freedom of speech and free speech and
Yep.
marches, and who was the conservative speaker that
I
they
forgot. Yeah.
that they shouted that or protested?
Oh,
said they were going to riot against.
Milo
Yeah.
Yiannopoulos or whatever.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I mean, why?
Conservatives cannot get a hearing on college campuses. They will be hounded off
No.
the campus. There will be
Yeah.
demonstrations and protests. And these are the people who say that they want freedom of speech
Right,
for
exactly.
themselves, only
Right.
for themselves.
Yep.
If you agree with me, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we recognize all points of view until they find out that there actually is another point of view, and then they don't want to hear about it.
Yeah.
Their version of what Voltaire said is, I will defend to the death your right to agree with me.
Yeah, right, exactly.
I like that.
There's a lot of truth to that.
By the way, this is our latecomer, John Kushelko. Introduce yourself, John.
I'm John Escacholco. I was in politics and government in Cicero for many years. I was a state representative briefly, and I enjoy doing radio. And regret that circumstances beyond my control prevented me from being here at the beginning of the show. But it's good to be here, and again to say some kind words about a great guy, Ken Little.
It sure is, yeah. And so you're a recovering politician, is that it? Would you describe it that way?
I had a great career in politics. I love being in politics. You know, people speak demeaningly about politicians. If you're going to have a free government, you're going to have politicians. I mean, you have your choice. You can be run by generals, you can be run by a one-party dictatorship, or you can be run by politicians. And if you're going to have elective office, you're going to have people who serve in politics. The idea that people are going to the old notion we had that people would be farmers or businessmen or bankers, and then after they're successful, they'd go spend a few years in government. It doesn't work that way. If you're going to have if you're going to have a representative form of government, you're going to have people in it that make a career out of it. And the problem is for people to choose the right ones and choose the good ones, the ones that there are many people in politics that are there for high-minded reasons.
Oh yes, I know.
And it's unfortunate. It's
that.
unfortunate that the greedy and the corrupt and the self-servers are the ones that get most of the attention
Right.
and give the image of what a politician is.
Right.
It's a shame they can't have a few more, instead of politicians, statesmen.
There you
Oh
go.
God, yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just a shame.
Yeah.
You know, that word has been forgotten
Yeah.
a long time ago.
But you have to remember, Abraham Lincoln was a politician.
Mm-hmm.
Winston Churchill was a politician. Franklin Roosevelt was a politician. John Kennedy. They all spent most of their life in public office. So there are good ones as well as the corrupt and the crooked and the greedy and the rest of them.
You know, one thing that I find interesting coming from Chicago and traveling around the rest of the country, how the tremendous amount of interest in politics in the city of Chicago, and a lot of areas of the country lack of interest in politics whatsoever. I mean, Chicago, you know, politics is a contact sport.
Yeah.
You know, and in other parts of the country, as a matter of fact, certain areas they find it a hard time finding someone to run for office. Where, you know, in Chicago we've got more than we need. The more the merrier.
Yeah, you see the gubernatorial stuff's going on now already. It's been going on for a while. We have, let me see now. Well, we have, I guess we got 2 or 3 on the Democratic side that are got ads on so far. We got Kennedy, who seems like his whole thing so far is that my father was killed and he's against violence.
Yeah.
And we've got
Pritzker.
Well, Pritzkers are the best. Pritzkers are the absolute best. You would think that Pritzker's running against Trump.
yeah, that's what my wife said. And on that note, we're going to have to get to another break, folks. We're getting there. You're listening to Meeting Chicago Historians.
I apologize for that. I told John I got
Well, friends, do you need a carpet for your living room, dining room, bedroom, den, family room, or even your outdoor patio? Well, I have the right place for you to go, and that is the Carpet Warehouse, located at 4300 West Montrose Avenue in Chicago, or you can call the Carpet Warehouse at area code 773-283-0100. So remember, friends, if you need a great deal on any carpeting you might need in your living room, dining room, bedroom, den, family room, or even your outdoor patio, go or call the Carpet Warehouse at 4300 West Montrose Avenue in Chicago, or call 773-283-0100. They are just east of Cicero Avenue or the Kennedy Expressway exit on the north side of the street. on Montrose Avenue. Carpet Warehouse at 4300 Montrose Avenue, and their phone number once again 773-283-0100. Now again, if you need a carpet for your living room, dining room, bedroom, den, family room, or even your outdoor patio, for a great deal, call the Carpet Warehouse 283-0100 or stop in at 4300 West Montrose Avenue in Chicago.
Senate will come to order.
Thank you, Senator McConnell.
Well, I was just talking about Pritzker's
Yeah.
ads. You'd think he was running against Trump. The odd part about it is he's running against Rauner, and Rauner was not a Trump supporter. He didn't even go to the inauguration.
It's like, who's the reformer here?
But the favorite is when he's looking into the camera with a very, dour expression, talking about how when he was growing up, his mother had a handicap, and he had to stop what he was doing and jump in to help the family.
Yeah.
He was a billionaire. A billionaire. What the hell is he talking about? And the affliction that his mother had, and I mean, I know it's a disease, but she was an alcoholic. So, I mean, are you kidding me?
But they assume that the average person isn't going to dig into the story
Yeah,
and
right.
find out what the truth is.
But I mean, he acts like he was, working in the mills, and his mother contracted cancer, and he had to quit his job, and he was just to help out, so he was delivering newspapers, before. So I mean, he was and still is a billionaire.
Delivering newspapers before you walk 10 miles
Yeah.
to school.
I mean, are you kidding me? I mean, do people believe this?
Tom?
or-
Who are you going to vote for?
the next election. Who knows?
Well, isn't his campaign, Pritzker and Kenney, aren't they both sort of basing their campaign on the idea that Rauner is a rich guy who's out of touch with the and we need an we need an average guy like Pritzker or Kennedy, to sort of straighten things out for the average common working man,
Average common working man like.
His sister got appointed, I believe it was a Secretary of Commerce, wasn't it? Because of the millions and millions of dollars that the Pritzker family donated to Barack Obama and his people, his candidates. So that was her reward.
So my wife said, "Why does he keep talking about Trump?" Like that one in the back, the Trump Towers. There's no getting away from him, is there? He's out there doing something every day to end Obamacare, and Governor Rauner does nothing about it.
You have to understand. I mean, the fact is, right now we're in the primary portion of the campaign. Their idea, they want to generate Democrats to come out and vote for him. And their presumption is that the base of the Democratic Party loathes Donald Trump. So they're competing with each other to see who hates Trump the most. And that's how you get the base to come out in the primary and vote for
But
you.
the one commercial, the other one is, did you know that bananas can do this for your IQ and cereal? That's why I work with nonprofits to improve.
Oh yeah, that's.
They show up sitting in the school desk.
Yeah. Didn't he run for senator?
He ran for governor before.
Oh, did he run for governor?
Yeah, he didn't get to the primary. I remember. Yeah, it was a few years back. But it was,
How many, all of them, Republicans and Democrats, how many are running for governor? There's got to be 6, 7, 8.
yeah, there are some minor
There's
ones.
one.
Right there.
Rauner has a female state legislator that's filed against him, conservative. I don't know if there are any other Republicans that are on the ballot. I don't think there's anybody substantive on the Republican side.
Yeah, and her
None of them are
and one of the
Well,
one of the,
when I mean somebody that has any kind of standing in politics.
and one of the pieces of her platform is to take away pensions for
Right,
state
right.
workers, city workers.
Yeah, not to have to be bound by the previous commitments, which, according to our state constitution, they are bound by it.
Yep.
Okay, now, whose fault has that been when for years municipal corporations, and we know which one was the main offender, City of Chicago, they collect what our pension, your pension bill for the fire department, ours, there's separate pensions that come out of Springfield, not City of Chicago. They're empowered to collect this money, but it's not their money. Matter of fact, did you remember Captain George Gannon in the police department?
Yes.
He would come, had a meeting. He was the guy who, they actually created a law, revised a law to get rid of him as a pension rep because he was a thorn in their side. You know, we all know he must have been connected to begin with, but he was the only active rep for active contributors as a captain. So they created 3 separate categories, one for the below sergeant, and one for lieutenant captain, so they would divide the whole thing. Now they're talking about going back the other way. Now, of course, Gannon's gone. But anyway, his question would be at our meeting. He was at one of our meetings when I was with Local 1975, Joe Mescal, or the late Joe Mescal, who's gone since last March now. But anyway, he'd say, how much of the city's money goes into your pension? And the guy says, no, the answer is none, because it's not their money to begin with. But they have think nothing of using this money. Instead of putting it in right away where it can start growing, they'll use it and put it in when you retire. And they've been doing that for years, and that's where the problem is. Don't you agree, Bill?
Oh,
Well,
absolutely.
that's why the state passed the law, and I believe is it this coming year, 18, where the cities have to pay their full share of the pension.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's coming to a head. That's why Rahm Emanuel is saying, the reason we've got to raise taxes is because of their pensions.
Yeah, because of us.
Yeah,
We're living high off the hog.
Yeah.
It'd be like if I say, you owe me $100. Well, can I pay you $10 a month for a year? Well, okay, and then you don't pay, and then finally he says, hey, you owe me $100. Oh, look at this guy, he wants $100 from me.
Yeah.
Well, that's basically, but I mean, that's a oversimplification of what it was. They were getting the pension board would send the city of Chicago the letter, this is what you owe us, and they would say thank you very much, and they just wouldn't contribute it. And they didn't need it really at the time. One good thing.
Thank you.
Well,
Mayor
they're kicking the
Daley.
can down the road. That's all it is. It's like
That's what's been happening in the state for decades.
in the state and the city too.
State, the city, and the county, all three.
Absolutely.
But one good thing about people, even though they might despise Trump, if they have any kind of pension or IRA or whatever invested in the stock market, they're making a lot of money, and our pensions are going right up with it. I mean, they're going to be.
But that's all due to Obama. I just heard that on the radio, and I've heard that on TV.
I forgot.
Obama.
See,
that's all due to Obama.
You don't understand, Tom.
See, we had a
they
dismal for 8 years. We had a dismal economy when Obama was president, but that was Bush's fault.
That's right.
Was
That's
Bush's
what I'm going to
fault.
say, yeah.
And now Trump came, and now the economy is roaring. That's thanks to Obama.
I was just going to say, it's the opposite.
Every president
Yeah.
controls the economy of the next guy after him.
They make it
I
sound.
heard them. Some Obama people floated that balloon.
Yeah.
I think a couple of weeks ago,
all this?
and the response was, "Are you kidding?"
It took 8 years.
Are you kidding?
It took
Are
a
you
long
kidding
time, but
me?
it took 8 years for his policies to kick in, and now, boy, we're just
It'd be
reaping the
like a
benefit.
guy that played on a football team 8 years ago taking credit for the Super Bowl win.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, but you're right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, it's all due to Obama. I guess CNN.
Obama.
I just heard on CNN has been peddling this line that no, this got nothing to do with Trump. This is Obama's economy.
Yeah, that's right.
I hadn't really heard that, but
Oh yeah,
I
absolutely.
did. Yeah, I heard it.
Please, everybody, think about that. Think about that. We're joking here.
Yeah. I wrote a piece about that. Maybe I'll have to send it to you guys about the pensions, the way that was, though.
Yeah.
In the Southwest News Herald. I'll send it. Promise.
You have to ask yourself at one level why anyone, but anyone, any responsible public figure would want to be governor of Illinois with this state in the dire mess that it is in. And Rauner he has certain weaknesses, but But Rauner has made some proposals and at least has some ideas about trying to straighten the state out. And he just runs into a brick wall. I mean, the legislature's not going to even listen to what he
That's
what
why
he
people are
suggests.
moving out.
Yeah.
People are moving out.
I think I read a stat
I
the
got
other
my
day.
tax bill the other day from the place I got in Baraboo, and it went down, I would say, probably 7-8%, something like that. You know.
That's why all the states around us are happy. They're
Yeah,
happy to have this state as bumping.
Illinois dropped one. I think they were fifth. Now they're sixth. In
Yeah,
total
I saw a graphic the
population.
other day that's the most fleet state is Illinois. They're leaving from here. Do you see the one commercial about all the commercial with all the different governors of surrounding
Yeah,
states
that's
saying,
great.
That's a
you know,
good
yeah,
one.
saying, thank you for thanks Madigan for
Yeah.
what
Oh
you've
yeah,
done.
that's a great. That's
Why
a
did
great
discontinue
commercial.
it? I wonder.
Well, I know my daughter and son-in-law and the kids. They're out in Las Vegas now. They're staying at my place. They want to check it out. They're thinking about moving out there. And they like it so far. But just for along these lines, is his company had a plant here in Chicago, and they also have one in Las Vegas. So he just transferred there. Just by doing that alone, he got a 4.9% pay increase because there's no state income tax.
There's no income tax, right?
And in Illinois, so his pay increased just by making that move almost approximately 5%.
Yeah.
That's a nice pay increase.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's
Just
one
by
of the few
moving out of the
states.
state.
One
Yeah.
of the few states that has that benefit. Yeah. It's incredible.
We're one of the few, 8 or 10 states where we have more people on welfare than we do working.
Yes, I saw that.
You see that?
Yeah.
yeah.
I think I sent that out.
That does
yeah.
you proud, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I read something about Hawaii was really like they're talking about doing a guaranteed income in Hawaii. That's scary.
What about it?
Like talking about doing a guaranteed income.
They are?
And Hawaii is, yeah. And there's so much poverty there,
Oh, is there really?
Yeah.
Well, you wouldn't think so.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
The average tourist wouldn't know that.
No.
You go to
No, you
Honolulu-
think the island paradise.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we've been there so many
Sunshine.
times.
Garrett and Don Ho, and that's your image of Hawaii. They're gone now, but I
Right.
mean that's the image you have of Hawaii.
That's right.
I know
But their
you.
politics now
we-
is so far to the left out there.
We drove to the working neighborhood, and those look kind of seedy, kind of depressed, old. We did drive through there, but you think tourism alone would be a big deal, right?
Yeah, you
Well,
would
that's-
think, yeah.
Well, so the example of that is Greece. I mean, Greece has fabulous tourism. I mean, Greece is one of the great destinations to see all the ancient
Yep.
structures and the history. But Greece is bankrupt because you can't just run an economy on tourism. It's not
Right.
enough to just have tourists coming in.
You can't
have
do
to have
cradle to
something
grave
beyond
either.
that, Yeah.
Right.
And expect
And they
No.
had bailouts too over in Greece.
It's the same
and that's
thing.
it.
They had a
Yeah,
they had a
same- yeah.
socialist, I think the
Yeah, you-
retirement age was 50 in Greece. The
Yeah,
government,
everybody was
Ridiculous.
retiring at age 50.
Yeah,
Yep.
and now they wonder why the Germans and everybody else doesn't want to bail them out. Why they don't want to raise their taxes in order to bail them out.
We tried before
Yeah,
to bail you
yeah,
out.
yeah.
We're going to take you over.
Yeah.
I'm half a German, folks. I can do that.
My taxes up in Wisconsin for the past 3 years went down over $50 a year. So when I got my tax bill just a couple of weeks ago, my taxes that I have to pay at the end of January are $50 less than last year. So for 3 years in a row, my taxes in Wisconsin have gone down at least $50. And I heard just last week or a week ago there was about 33,000 people have moved out of the state of Illinois.
Yep.
I don't know if that's true or not,
Last
but
weekend.
Yeah.
What did they say? There was a stat every second, I think it was, that one resident leaves the state of Illinois. Is what I read.
The only growing demographic that I heard in the state is the millennial
Millennials.
crowd,
Yeah.
the near north, Lincoln Park, DePaul
River North.
area. Yeah, that segment of the population is growing. It's not growing fast enough to pick up the slack for the ones that are leaving,
Right.
but it is increasing.
But they're still early in their careers. Wait until they have been more successful and they have something.
Exactly.
Wait till their income rises and they start seeing that bite being taken out of their taxes.
What were you saying, Tom, about the one girl thought socialism was great because she should be social?
Oh, well, that was during the convention during the campaign when they asked Bernie Sanders supporters about, socialism, and can you describe it? There were like 5, young people. Three of the guys wouldn't even take a stab at it, but the one girl, she said, I'm for socialism. I think people should be social. That's why I'm on Facebook. I'm on Facebook and Twitter. Really, she actually
And
said
they
that.
vote.
Yeah. Socialism is great.
Well, remember Bruce Wayne on Batman? He was the millionaire socialist, wasn't he? Oh, no, it was socialite.
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 Socialite,
Yeah.
The best line was Margaret Thatcher. She said, "The trouble with socialism is that eventually you run out of other people's money."
That's right.
Yeah. That's it.
True.
That's
How
the bottom
true.
line. Talking about free education, there's nothing free.
Somebody's going to pay for it.
Yeah.
Be free.
Maybe
I
it
had
might
a
be
guy
free
that-
right now, but eventually it's going to catch up. And that's the point. You know?
Or
I
my
had a guy
colleague.
that an ex-Chicago copper. He went to the state. In fact, his name was Ryan, and he was in charge of the old Bunko squad. And I never forget it. He says, "Bill," he says, "there ain't no free lunches. There ain't no any free anything."
Yeah.
So,
I heard a legislator in Springfield once say, "Oh, this program is not going to cost the taxpayers anything. This is federal money."
there you go. There
Yeah.
you go.
And that's the biggest farce of all because less comes back than goes out there. We know that. Yeah. Anyway.
I wish Ken Little was here to get
Oh,
in
do I
on this
ever.
conversation.
Yeah.
He had some good, some great ideas.
He had some interesting perspectives, that's for
Yes.
sure. Yeah.
He had a delivery, too. It was not with a twang. It was kind of like a Will Rogers way of
Yeah.
of delivering, and seeing where the common sense was. Like, I heard there was one talk about Will Rogers was at some kind of a banquet where some governor or the lieutenant was up there speaking at it, and he apologized for speaking so long, but there wasn't a clock on the wall. And he says, "Hell, Senator, didn't you see the calendar up there?" So, I mean, but Ken had a real soft, easygoing way about him. It really that accentuated the wisdom of it, I think.
Gentlemen, Ken's birthday was, if he would have lived, he missed his 85th birthday by 2 days.
That's right. December 10th, John.
December 10th, that's
That's
right.
right.
And ever
Yeah.
since I known the man, and I've known Ken well over 55 years, because I've been with the 511 Club about 59 years, and I met Ken just right after I joined the club. And I would call Ken up on his birthday. I would call him up about maybe 10:30, 11 o'clock. Well, let's say if I call him at 11 o'clock, I get off the phone about 12:30, quarter to 1, because there was one story after another that he would talk about, and every one of his stories and every one of his conversations that I was involved with him was always very, very interesting, informal, and educational. I learn a lot. I learn a lot about the Chicago Fire Department through Ken Little. And like I said, his books every book that he published, him and Father McNellis,
Right.
that they publish, I have upstairs in my credenza, and it was always nice. But I can always remember, well, if you're gonna call Ken, get a soft chair, an easy chair, and plan on get a hand rush, because by the time you get done talking, your arm is up just about falling asleep, holding the phone to your ear.
Yeah, but Ken was a good storyteller because he knew that as any good storyteller knows, there are 3 parts to a story: the beginning, the middle, and the end.
Right.
There are so many storytellers that they have the beginning down, and boy, have they got the middle. They've got that middle going great. The problem is they just don't know when to end it.
The middle never comes to an end.
The middle never comes to an end, and that ruins it all. So he had the ability to do that.
One of his last appearances here, he mentioned the Chicago streetcar disaster of 1950, of which I had never heard. I'm growing up in Cicero. It happened. I was probably a year old when it took place. I was not aware of it, and he told me about it. And then the next I think it was the next month, he brought a book about it and loaned it to me, which I read. It was a fascinating story. I'd never heard of this, the collision streetcar explosion. It was a horrible, horrible loss of
I
life.
think that's when a
Wasn't
streetcar
that 60,
ran
63rd
in
and
63rd and Western, wasn't it?
no, state.
State, yeah,
63rd and state.
That's-
Yeah.
that's
a
what a
freak
seat-
accident. Everything went wrong. The old
Was it an
everything
oil gasoline truck too? or something?
collided with
Yeah.
the gas. It was
They couldn't open the doors out.
and the doors were jammed, and all these people died against,
That's
jammed
right.
against the doors. Just a-
The Green Hornet,
Horrible.
that's right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
I think it was called the Green Hornet disaster, and I had never heard of this. And
Yes.
so he brought it to my attention.
All right,
and-
I tell you, gentlemen, I heard that whole conversation over the fire radio, over the Englewood fire radio. I heard that.
When that actually- wow.
And you don't think at the time I should have recorded because that would have been that would have been history in itself. But yes, I remember that very well. It happened in the afternoon, about mid-afternoon.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, at 63rd and State, the Green Hornet CTA ran into a gas tanker.
Gasoline truck.
Yeah.
It was shifting from
And then,
making a turn because the viaduct had been closed. There was a rain that day. The
Yep.
viaduct was flooded. They were only a few minutes short of opening the viaduct up at that point. But this streetcar arrived at just the wrong time. He turns, and apparently the motorman was distracted and collides with this gasoline truck.
And another major disaster on the south side, not far from there, was the Mickleberries disaster. That's when a truck was unloading something into the building, and the fumes caught on fire. What was that, Bill? Do you remember?
Some kind of fumes.
Where was Mickleberry's? Do you remember?
Yeah, Mickleberry plant.
Where was that?
And we lost, how many did we lose there?
Well, we lost quite a few firemen there,
Four,
and
yeah.
Mickleberry Meat Company?
Or
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, I think that's coming up, the anniversary. It's coming up soon. And we're thinking about doing a program on that.
on
No,
the Mickleberry.
Yeah.
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 Tom McGivney, who I work with, father of Jack McGivney, who you work with, Tom, he worked for Mickleberry. He left them shortly before that happened, for the police department. So,
Well, we're talking about, if I could just mention on birthdays, I had the sad occasion of attending a funeral last Thursday for my father's uncle, man who lived in Berwyn. His name was Paul Tuckey. He was a World War
how old
II.
was he?
That's what I want to say. He
Wow.
was a World War II veteran. He served in the China-Burma India Theater. It's what they called the CBI at the time. He was an airplane mechanic in the Army Air Forces. And on June the 23rd next year, he would have turned 100 years old.
Wow.
He was 99 and 1/2 and was active right up until about the last 6 or 8 months.
Well,
And
let's
just
see.
incredible, nearly just short of 100.
My dad'd be 103, but he didn't make it up to 59.
My dad would have turned 100 this year had he lived. So they were very close in age and knew each other when they were
Your
very
dad
young.
was born what year? Do you remember? Your dad was born what year?
07, I think.
Yeah, he was that much older, and he went to St. Theodore.
Yeah.
He had Sister Hilda, didn't he? Too. It was our parish.
So most
Theodore.
people aren't familiar. On the south side, people ask where you're from, and they respond by what parish they're from.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
all over
Used to
the
do that.
city, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not
But
as
on
much
the
as it used to be,
south side,
though.
where people say, where are you from? And I said, St. Theodore. And the reason that they're not familiar with it, I mean, it was a small parish, but also it wasn't on a main street.
Yeah.
It was off of 63rd in the middle of the block. So all the other major parishes were on main streets. People would drive by them
Yeah.
and look at the signs.
62nd and Paulina.
And so many of the parishes at that time had a particular ethnicity. They were aligned with, thought to be aligned with one particular
We
nationality.
were a little bit
or-
everybody,
Right.
weren't we there?
Yeah, probably more Irish than
Irish, Polish,
German.
Italian,
People would say, oh, that's
Croatian.
the Irish pair. That's the Italian.
Yeah,
St.
that's
St.
what they
Mar-
were, though,
St.
one
Mary
time.
of Mount Carmel at 67th Street. That
Yeah.
was the Italian.
Italian national. They had no boundaries, these national parishes.
The
you
national
know.
churches, yes.
Well, you go down around 47th and Ashland, within a mile each way, there was probably 20 churches that were, one was a German, one was a Polish, one was a Slovak.
We had them
was
in
a-
Cicero as well. Yeah.
Yeah? You had it like that?
Yeah.
over on Archer Avenue, there were two right next door to each other. Remember that? Archer and 39th, remember? That was, one was St. Agnes, one was the other one. What was the name? They consolidated it into Our Lady of Fatima Parish. But
My
eventually-
parish, St. Mary of Chenstohova, is, I believe, a national parish to this day, where they don't have specific.
What's Czestochowa? Is that?
That's the shrine in Poland, the great,
Yeah.
great shrine. They call it the Black Madonna because
Right.
through the years the smoke from the candles has turned the face of the Virgin Mary black, so they call it the Black Madonna. It is a huge shrine, not only for Poles, but I think for all of Eastern Europe. It's a great place of pilgrimage.
Didn't they do something with St. Adalbert Cemetery? They had some type of a statue there.
Oh, I'm sure there
In-
must
in
be.
that-
I'm sure there must be a
Yeah.
shrine of Chenstohova
Did you
because it
see
has
what
such
they
an
did
importance in Poland.
to Holy Family? Couple of mopes busted the
yeah.
window.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's gonna,
They vandalized it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Such gutless stuff, go in and
those-
desecrate.
That place was built before the fire.
Yeah.
1861, I think it
Yeah,
was.
I guess they broke one of the stained glass windows.
That's it. Yeah, it's going to cost $25,000 to replace, and it'll never be the same.
No.
It's really a shame. They damaged Holy Family Church. Like I said, Tom, they broke the stained glass window and broke in and did the expensive damage to the church. And also, right over on Addison, St. Bartholomew, there was a statue outside on the pillar, on the
Right.
stand, and somebody went and stole that. And up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, somebody went to a nativity scene and took the Blessed Mother statue out of there and smashed the hell out of it.
Yep.
And I said to my sister, I says, people do things like that. They broke into the church. They stole the statue over St. Bart's. They did this up in Wisconsin. But remember one thing, everybody, both people listening to us and people here in my studios, there is a man upstairs that will get even with you.
Yep.
And I am a firm believer of that. When I was with WJJG, we had a guy that talked strictly against religion. And one day I was living at 4241 North Melvina. It was about 7 o'clock in the morning when he was on the air. And it's a wonder that I did not get into an accident or I did not get picked up by the police on Mannheim Road, especially in Stone Park.
Yep.
I flew and I made every third step up to that studios. I walked behind the engineer. I turned off his mic. I says, "You get out of here right now." I says, nobody in this world is going to talk about our Lord.
Yeah.
It's not going to talk about the flag and about our military or anything, and about in God we trust. I says we grew up with that, and those guys over there saved your life and made it so that you are able to come up here and talk like that on the air. And I told him, get out right now. And I called Joe Gentile down in Boca Raton, Florida, and I told him, one of your people that were, I'm not going to mention his name, although he's deceased now, and I told him, I says, you talk against religion, about Catholics, Jewish, Protestants and all that. I said, but remember one thing, sir, there is a God above every human being's head, and someday you're going to meet that God, and he's going to have a few words to say to you. And believe me, I've lived with that, and I believe in that. You don't go around damaging sacrilegious stuff and get away with it.
Whatever happened to his camper or whatever it was parked out here, John, wasn't it?
Oh, I don't know, the Shermobile.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
He got killed in an airplane accident
Yeah.
out there, and out there where, what the heck is that out there? Way out there by near Belvedere, way out west on the tollway.
Yeah.
And when I got the call that this had happened, I said, well, he's talking to God right now.
Yep.
Break time.
Oh my goodness, it's break time already.
Hey, I remember that one.
Looking for a place to have some printing done? Well, I have the right place for you to go, and that is the printing store in Oak Park, Illinois. Call or see Phil Berry at 621 Madison Street in Oak Park, Illinois, or call 708-383-3638. Phil will sit down with you and help you plan whatever you need printed. Now, his products are brochures, booklets, business cards, catalogs, envelopes, letterheads, flyers, invitations, newsletters, notepads, menus, mailers, manuals, labels, posters, postcards, price lists, NCR forms, sale sheets, table tents, pocket folders, and presentation forms. And the services include 1 to 4 color offset printing, digital copying, high-speed copying, graphic designs, typesetting, laminating, foil stamping, die cutting, and imprinting. And he also has a complete bindery service, which includes booklets, cutting, scoring, folding, numbering, padding, and drilling. So once again, for all your printing needs, see or call Phil Berry at the printing store at 621 Madison Street in Oak Park, Illinois, or call 708-383-3638. And once again, they are located at Madison Street and Clarence Avenue, just east of Oak Park Avenue. And it's at 621 Madison Street in Oak Park, or call 708-383-3638 and ask to speak to
We're back. We're back.
We are back.
We're back from that break, and this is the home stretch. And so anyway, we don't want to. How about Christmas time with Ken? Was he a good guy at Christmas time, your grandfather?
Was he a good time at Christmas? I always got a very nice gift from him at Christmas. Yeah,
Well,
he loved the
that's good.
holidays. He loved family.
Yeah.
So you know,
That's what it is about. It's for the kids, and
yeah.
just like in our own case, I'm sure there's plenty of this in his life. How many siblings? How many kids did they have?
Well,
9 or 10?
14, 15.
yeah, total was more than that. I guess my uncles and my aunts too. Yeah, a lot of brothers and sisters of
Yeah.
my dad. So
Because I know Christmas Eve, my wife and myself went over to the daughter's house because we got the 2 grandsons, 5 and 3, in beautiful age. We were when they got up to see what Santa left them, and it's just such a delight. You know, you can't buy something like that. And
Well, for the first time in 8 years, we have a president that says Merry Christmas.
right, he made a point of that,
The
didn't he?
media doesn't like that either.
Oh, no, that's a big no-no.
And he has, whenever he goes and speaks at this time, he has these huge placards behind him that say "Merry Christmas."
Right.
No Happy Holidays
Yeah, they-
from Donald Trump.
He said the one time, "Come on, turn around, show the crowds that are here," because that was that tight shot. You know,
Yeah.
all the time. So there was no difference between the rallies, according to that. See what you see, but
I always like to tell people, at the ending of the movie, George Bailey does not run down the street shouting "Happy Holidays, Bedford Falls."
I should have brought it with and showed you, but I took it off yesterday. Our KC council came up with a button. Oh, it's a good, 3 inches, whatever it is, and on that it says, "It's all right to say Merry Christmas to me."
I've seen that button.
I have
yeah.
seen that too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I saw
that's
someone
good,
wearing
Bill.
one of
Yeah.
those buttons.
I like that. Yeah.
I got him a stocking stuffers, and my daughter gave me, and one was it was a "Make America Great" cap. It's inside of a
Yeah.
plastic. Listen to this, inside of a plastic.
Was it red?
envelope.
It had
Yeah,
the
red
color?
and all that.
Yeah.
And it says there's a stamp on the outside that says "Made in China." So it was like, is this a joke or what? But
Cover that part up.
I'm going to save it like that to show somebody.
One of my Christmas presents from the kids was a shirt, and I love it. It's my style, plaid, red plaid,
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at the label. I can't even pronounce the name of place where it was made.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't even attempt something Stan. You know,
Oh.
One of the
One of the
stands.
stands. Yeah. We're back on Stan again. What is this? We keep going back to Stan.
Stan Makita.
Well, talking about Merry Christmas, I saw a poster, and it was a picture of Jesus Christ, and it said, "He is the reason for the season."
yeah.
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 I
That's a
mean,
good
to
one.
try to deny
Right.
Christmas as anything other than what it is.
I just read something too.
That's a really good one. You have to get that.
I sent it out. I sent it out on my email stuff to my friends about in the Wikipedia all about Kwanzaa.
Oh, I think
Totally
today,
bogus.
today is the first day
Oh,
of
yeah,
Kwanzaa.
totally
yesterday.
bogus.
Yeah, it was made.
26th.
And you know how Kwanzaa was started? It was started by a socialist. I actually looked it
Yeah,
up.
right.
Yeah,
I mean, you talk about a total
there's a
BS.
guy who did time for torturing someone who was out there. Read about
Yeah,
it.
he was a
And then
criminal.
They
Yeah,
go
he
back
was in
after
the
this,
new,
and they
the new Black Panthers or something.
Yeah.
Oh,
And then-
terrible guy. Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
1 to 5% of the black population of America celebrates that. But all these stations with these stupid white idiots in charge of them, about Kwanzaa, and you look, it's ridiculous, the outfits that they got. And
When the
unbelievable.
news media talks about the tremendous sales for the holidays, which holiday generates the sales? New Year's? Are people buying all those things for New Year's?
Boxing Day?
Boxing Days, the solstice,
Yeah.
and even and I was just say for Hanukkah, Hanukkah is a relatively small
yeah.
festival on the Jewish
just comes
calendar.
around this
it's
time.
for children only. Adults do not exchange gifts at Hanukkah.
Right.
The huge percentage of those sales are for Christmas. But
Right.
by saying it's for the holidays, they get to avoid giving credit where credit
Christmas,
is
yeah.
due.
Yeah.
Well, it's another thing. Christmas, in addition to being this religious holiday, is a secular
Yes.
holiday in the United States.
Right.
It's a national holiday.
National
It's
holiday.
a national holiday. It has
Whether
been
or
since
not.
the 19th century.
Right. Grant, I think, was the one that signed
1870s was in the
The
1870s
1800s, that's
when
right.
it became.
it.
Yep.
I just read about that one, too.
That's right. It was right after the Civil War. That's right.
Christmas was actually downgraded in New England, for example. The Puritans, the Pilgrims. That's why for them Thanksgiving was the center of their celebration at this time of year, because Christmas they considered that to be a popery and the Church of England.
Yeah, yeah.
They associated it with the other faiths. So it was a while before states like Massachusetts and New England actually acknowledged Christmas as a national holiday, as a state holiday.
But then, like now, the Puritans aren't much there anymore, are they?
No, they don't have this. But I mean, for a long time,
Yeah.
that was still the case. We think Christmas was always universally celebrated, and it's more. It's really a 19th century in the United States. A 19th
Well, there was
century.
supposedly an anti-Catholic day, too, that George Washington said, don't be
Guy
celebrating this."
Fawkes Day.
Huh?
Guy Fawkes Day. Guy
Oh,
Fawkes Day.
yeah.
Guy Fawkes was
Yeah.
the plot to blow out a group of Catholics were
What was
going to
it?
blow up the Parliament building.
Yeah.
The gunpowder plot they called it.
Someone said he
And
was the
it's-
only one entered Parliament with good intentions.
It's still celebrated. It's kind of a happy holiday. It's no longer has any of the
Was he Irish? I didn't know
political.
that.
I think he was an English Catholic. He was an English Catholic. There were and still are to this day large numbers of English Catholics.
Yeah.
But it was considered an anti-Catholic celebration because Fawkes had been Catholic, and they were celebrating the fact that the plot had been broken up and he
yeah.
was arrested.
Was he
and
executed?
when they attempted, Guy Fawkes was executed. And that's understandable. He was trying to blow up the English Parliament.
no,
Somebody
come
tried
on.
to blow up the White House. I mean, But
But
the point is that
he's
Washington
rebuilt. He's educated. He's reformed.
Washington ordered that that there be no Guy Fawkes Day celebrations because this would be offensive to the Catholics that were serving in the United States
There were
Army.
quite a few by then, weren't
Yeah,
there?
yeah. Washington was very, very strict about that. He had respect for all religious faiths.
Was he an Episcopalian?
Right. He was
Yeah.
Which is
Hi-
Catholic light, right?
yeah, very close to the
Son-in-law's
It's very similar to the
Episcopalian.
Yeah, he was, and he held positions. I think he was a vestryman. They have these various positions that laymen hold in the Episcopal Church.
Well, you read about these faiths like Anglican Church, that the day the Revolution went in was the day of the birth of the Episcopalian Church of America, because in the Anglican Church you had to swear allegiance to the crown, the king and queen, whoever it was,
Yeah, here in
at the
America,
time.
it's now called the Protestant Episcopal Church. I think is the official name of it.
Of what?
The church, what used to be the Church of England,
Is it?
the
Oh.
Anglican Church. Yeah.
And then there's the Church of Ireland, that's Episcopalian also, isn't it? Or Anglican, I mean.
As Victor McLaughlin
Yeah.
says, I'll join the Church of Ireland.
As
Yeah,
if
as
they'd
if
have you.
they'd have you.
I'd like
A lot of people think Ireland is all what was going up for grabs and fighting all over. It was just the North, really, and it wasn't really religion. It was politics over. It just so happens that
Religion
the one side,
was the veneer that they gave
Yeah,
to what
yeah.
was really political.
it was political.
Friend of mine just came back from Ireland. He's naturally he's an Irish guy, very very thick brogue. And I says, "Hey Jimmy," I says, "What's going on?" He says, I don't drink anymore." He says, and during the Christmas season, the only thing that's open over there is the bars and the taverns and that. He says, and I don't want to be over there anymore.
Well, in the one spot,
Christmas season.
we just alluded to the quiet man. Remember, he says they're waiting to have the meeting of the committee. Remember the committee? That's what that was. And
Yeah.
and he says, he said to Barry Fitzgerald, "We're at peace, man." He says, "Yes, but I still have me hopes." Which is
I love it when the Episcopal bishop is riding through the town,
Yeah.
and Father Ward Bond says, "And now remember, let's cheer like Protestants. Hip hip hooray!"
he covers up.
He covers
the
up
collar
his
with
Roman
the,
collar. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's pretty much how their relationship is. It's there were Protestants in the IRA, so
The Reverend Mr. Playfair, good and decent man that he is.
yeah. Reverend, no, Mister. Remember, he says on a formal occasion.
John Wayne starts to call him Father. Well,
Right.
Reverend.
Oh, by the way, what's his name? Arthur Shields was Barry Fitzgerald's brother. He served time in Wales for participating in the Easter Rising.
Did he?
Yes, he did.
Interesting.
He's all these cultured, gentle parts he usually has.
Yeah.
He served time in Wales for that. Was it during World War? What year was that about, John?
World War One. Yeah, the Easter Rising.
Well, World War
yeah,
One, yeah.
1916.
Yeah, well, in the middle of World War.
Yeah.
World War's already
Yeah.
going on.
Yeah.
So they put that
They
down.
were
kinda.
hopeful of German weaponry and ammunition, that the
Did they?
Germans would support them as a way of undermining the British war effort.
Yeah. There was a big, I'm getting off the subject now, but there was a big sentiment in the United States we should join the side of Germany in World War I because, A, large amount of Germans here. 2, the Irish and English, never did get that way. But I also
would've-
feel,
Oh,
do
go ahead.
you feel this is true? Germany got kind of a bad rap about that war. It was no more their fault than anyone else's, was it?
Yeah, the World War One. There's a combination of blame. I mean, you can mete out blame to most of the
Yeah.
Russians, the French, the Austrians, the Serbians started it by a sad. The Serbian secret police had its hands in murdering the heir to the Austrian throne. Now, that's not something you think is going to cause goodwill amongst men.
No.
So they all had a part to play. It would be difficult to ascribe much blame to Britain because they were the last of the major powers to get into it, and they were still trying to get to arrange some sort of negotiation. But certainly all the other powers on the continent, they all were itching for war. The French, the Russians, they were all wanted revenge for something that had happened in the past.
And in Germany, it was like there were 415 ordinances or what in the Treaty of Versailles. 400 of them were against Germany.
Yeah.
Yeah, things like Bayer Aspirin. Bayer Company is a German company. They had to give up their patent on aspirin and on heroin.
Well, they had to agree that there was what they call the war guilt clause, that the war was Germany's fault, and it's simply not
Yeah.
right. It's simply not historically accurate.
And they
to
were
say
not
that-
the Huns either.
No, and the Kaiser was not the bloodthirsty, Hun tyrant that he was portrayed even in our movies during
Yeah.
the time. The Kaiser, if anything, was not eager for war. It was the general staff that really wanted to get the trains rolling and work out all these plans that they had made. They had all these beautiful plans. They didn't want to see them stop. The Kaiser actually appealed them to say, "Let's stop. Maybe we can come to some No. Trains are already rolling. It's all we can't stop it now. It caused too much confusion."
How many Kaisers were there? Do you have an idea? The Kaiser means Caesar, by the way, in German, does it not?
It's derived just like Tsar.
Tsar, yeah.
Tsar is also
Tsar,
derived from
yeah.
Caesar. There were only three. There was the grandfather. Briefly, the father reigned for just a few
What
months.
are their names?
There was Kaiser Wilhelm I, who was the grandfather of the man we know of as the Kaiser, and he reigned forever. He lived to be 91 years old, I believe. His son inherited the throne in 1888. In fact, all three of them reigned in the year 1888. The first Kaiser died. His son reigned for just a few months. He had cancer of the throat, and there was surgery that was botched. It was a huge scandal at the time. He died and was succeeded then by his son, whom we know as the Kaiser. Kaiser
What about there's one
Wilhelm
more?
II. I'm sorry?
One more, Kaiser Fraser.
Kaiser Fraser, yeah. Or Sid Caesar, yeah.
For all you folks out there who are younger than boomers, the Kaiser Fraser was an automobile.
Yes.
Yeah.
Kaiser. Henry, was that Henry Kaiser's?
Henry J. Yeah, he also made a car called the Henry J.
You
was
know,
another
it
car called the Henry J.
They had the Jeep,
Yeah.
the Willis Motors. Was it Willis or? Yeah, it was a Willys too, wasn't there? A car? Yeah, but that was theirs, I believe.
There's a great little sidelight about the Kaiser. Maybe you've seen. There's a documentary about Lou Gehrig, and they point out that for the first half of his career, he lived in the shadow of Babe Ruth. It was always Ruth and Gehrig. He was the junior partner. He had 1 year when Ruth left the Yankees. He had, I think, 1 year when he was the sole star. The following year, Joe DiMaggio comes to the Yankees, and although he was much younger, he was more charisma, more flash. So he was secondary to DiMaggio for the final years of his career. It was always now it was DiMaggio and Gehrig. And when he died, in the week that Lou Gehrig died, his obituary wasn't even the biggest news of the week because Kaiser Wilhelm, in exile in Holland, died that week.
That same week.
The
Wow.
same week. And so the news was the
Interesting.
Kaiser has died, and Lou Gehrig's death was second. They said even in death,
Wow.
he always played second fiddle to
The
someone else.
Kaiser had a son who was involved with the Nazis. I remember that. Seeing pictures of that.
He had a son. He had one of his younger sons was briefly involved with the Nazis, but they pretty much realized early on that the Nazis were not something they wanted to be really connected with. But yeah, early on, one of his sons, August Wilhelm, one of his younger sons, would parade around in a Nazi uniform. The Kaiser never had any sympathy. Story is that his son once came to visit him, where he was living in exile in Holland, and gave him the Hitler
Heil?
salute. And his father, the Kaiser, was ready to throw him out of the chateau. Said he never wanted to hear that again, and don't you ever dare use that address to me.
Well, it was like sacrilegious to the actual royalty too,
Yeah.
wouldn't it be? You
Oh,
know,
absolutely.
Someone like Hitler.
And the Nazis hated the monarchy. Hitler hated the monarchy, the Kaiser. There's stories. There was celebrations in 1938, which would have been Wilhelm's 50th anniversary as emperor if he had still reigned. And there were people putting his picture in the window and bringing out the old flags, and the Nazis went absolutely berserk. They immediately issued a decree making it illegal to show any emblems of any previous government of the Reich other than the Nazi government, just to see to it that didn't happen. Hitler hated the monarchy.
Interesting that he became even more of an autocrat.
Oh,
though.
God.
Never-
Kaiser never had anywhere near the power
Right.
that Hitler had.
You know, I was watching and Patton and some. The Fuhrer insisted that the invasion was going to come across to Marseille, or not Marseille,
The Pas de Calais.
Calais, yeah.
Yeah, Calais.
Because in the one Joe Yodel saw, you dare argue with Fuhrer? But he wouldn't. When he woke up when the invasion was going on.
Well, that's Kurt Jurgens in The Longest Day says, we're going to lose the war because our glorious Fuhrer has taken a sleeping pill.
Yeah. Oh, talk
One of the
about
best musicals on was just on the other day with all of that in it.
The Sound of Music, yeah.
Sound of Music, yeah.
Zsa Zsa Gabor said that reminded of her story.
Yeah.
Zsa Zsa, just about a one step above being a streetwalker.
One of my favorite scenes in The Sound of Music is when the Baron comes back and sees the swastika flying over his castle and goes up, tears it in half, very visibly tears the swastika flag in half.
Now the Sound of Music was that based on the real life, wasn't it?
It's based on the real
I mean, now,
life,
obviously
but
there's
they
gonna
took
be-
liberties with
Yeah, a
it.
lot of them.
Herr there is the Herr Detweiler, one of my favorite characters. Herr Detweiler, their manager, was actually a Catholic priest. The man who actually managed the family
Yeah.
and did their bookings and arrangements was a Catholic priest. And there's another slip in there because Maria, when they ask Maria to say grace, She says Protestant grace. She says, for what we are about to receive, may the Lord make us truly grateful, which I believe is a standard Protestant form of saying grace. She doesn't say, bless us, O Lord, and these thy gifts.
How about Paul Kettle?
Nobody ever really told him that the
Paul Kettle
Austrians
is
are
the
all
one movie
Catholic.
went much obliged from all of us, But
But it's a great film. I mean, it's one of the greatest. I think one of the greatest musicals ever made.
I don't know.
What do you?
What about Grease? I don't know. I don't go much for musicals anyway.
It's a great film. Very patriotic. I mean, I like the Edelweiss. Bless my homeland forever.
Oh yeah,
There's, there is that patriotism
Yeah.
to the film, fighting the Nazis.
No, it was
yeah.
wasn't it like this? Cherry beer Edelweiss, it tastes so nice, so nice. Drink Edelweiss. Remember, folks, there was a Chicago beer called Edelweiss. That's what the reference was to. But anyway, well, we've pretty much filled most of our time. We intended to. We have some of the cards from the funeral here in front of everybody's desk of Ken. It's a good picture, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
That's how he was in his. As I remember him.
He had that lively face in him. That
Yeah.
face that was always
he's
ready
got a-
to tell a story.
Interesting expression on his face. Like someone just told him a joke, or it's.
We had his face on a button. I think we gave him for his 80th birthday on like a
Yeah.
red button, and so it said 4 score on top and so much more on the bottom.
That's beautiful.
So we were wearing that at the at the wake and stuff, But
Yeah.
And if you want to see the Ken Little Library at the
Oh yeah.
Fire Museum, we have open house on the 27th of January. Oh, that's right. We have to wait that long.
Yeah, you don't have it
27th
this
of
month.
January, 10 to 2, and we're at 5218 Southwestern.
my uncle runs that. Phil Little was
Phil Little,
in charge of that,
yeah.
and
Oh, yeah?
he does a terrific job. And the library ceremony was well done. So go check
Is
it
he a
out.
fireman too?
No,
No.
he's just a fire fan, but he's very knowledgeable. Has a great collection in his own right. So
Now, but we're talking to the Fire Museum, which is, by the way, our official museum of Meet the Chicago Historians.
Here.
Yes.
Speaking of that, can someone make a special arrangement for a special tour, or can they call?
Give me a call.
Yeah, and you're on the website.
Yes.
To the website. There?
yeah, he's on the website. And
Yes.
it might-
Somebody
you-
wants to go on a day when you can't make it for the open house, and it's for whatever, a
Yeah.
family, a class,
Yeah.
a school. Why
School
give us a
tours.
call.
Schools. The
Give us
school
a
when
call.
they do their in May they do their usually field trips. They could actually stop there on the way to Brookfield Zoo too, or something like that.
Exactly.
make more than
Exactly.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah, or my uncle Phil, you can contact him as well. He's he could give tours as well. So
Is he on the website?
he's on the website.
Yeah.
Yep, he has his own
So
newsletter.
get somebody on the
so-
website,
Yeah.
except Webb. Webb won't be there.
Jack Webb.
Jack Webb.
Oh, Jack Webb, yeah.
Just
give the
facts,
website.
man, just the facts.
Yeah,
Give-
Spider Web.
Give the website.
Oh, Greater Chicago Museum.
Greater
ChicagoMuseum.org.
Greater.
Fire Museum of
Greater
Greater
Chicago,
Chicago.org.
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
What it
Yeah.
is.
Oh, Google it.
Yeah, just put it in Google. That's what I
Google
do.
it up, yeah.
It's kind of a long web address. but-
5218 South on Western Avenue.
60632. Is it?
I don't know.
I think it is.
I have no idea what
Well, I think it is.
what the zip is.
What do you think, Tom?
I'm going to agree with our moderator.
Yeah, 32. It's not
'Cause I don't
29
have the
because it's north
slightest
of 55th there. 55th.
Could be.
Yeah, could be
I'm a
one.
North Sider.
What's your zip code?
I'm in 25.
Oh. What's your zip code?
60656.
Yeah, come on.
60804.
60.
3-1.
29. My new one will be 60527.
For many years, Cicero had a Chicago zip code. We were 60650. We were part of the Chicago postal system. We
You were?
still are, but they gave us a separate numbering that's out of the 606.
They did that with Evergreen Park too, I know, in places like Did you hear what I said though? My new zip code? We're moving,
Oh,
you
that's
are?
right.
Oh,
Yeah, we already got we've got the place, you've had it, but we still haven't sold the other house, so anyway, if you are thinking of selling, do call Deanna, okay? She's been in the business since '89. That girl, she really, my
She's
wife.
at an
don't-
advanced age.
Hope she
Yeah,
doesn't
that's
listen
what-
to
that's an
this, you know.
advanced age
Yeah,
to get
no,
into
you know,
it.
she's a child bride. But she's been in the business since '89, and
How old is she
this
now?
girl, she really took to it. Like she had a natural, just a knack for. She could sit without even getting on the paper and tell you more or less what it's going to be or how much, like that. Of course, that's women anyway. Women, what's made for women. Women love to fix the nests up, all that. You ever notice that?
That's right.
It was the women that started the family, by the way.
That's right.
And then our species. They did that by being more affectionate to all the guys who were running around, and they kept them closer to the campfire. I wrote about that too.
Have you been talking to Matt Lauer or Charlie Rose or Garrison Keeler or any?
Or what's his
You see
name?
how much trouble you can get
Weinstein?
into these days.
Harvey.
Harvey, yeah.
Harvey Weinstein.
Harvey.
Harvey Weinstein.
Mr. Weinstein.
No,
Yeah.
come on now. Why should a guy like that?
He
behave
wasn't
like that?
Jimmy Stewart's buddy, was he? He's not the Harvey that was Jimmy Stewart's buddy. I don't
Or
think
was he?
so.
Harvey.
But
Harvey
a guy
Rabbit.
like that. I mean, when you got all that charm and good looks and athletic appearance, why would you have to force anybody? Like the way he is. Of course, this is nothing new. I mean, we've heard of the term casting couch for years, right?
Yeah, but I don't. I think it's different from what went on in the 30s and 40s because I think women had a different attitude toward those things in the 30s and 40s. My thinking is that if this had happened in the 30s or 40s, the guy would have gotten his face slapped. I mean, that's what always happened in the movies of that era. Whenever a man just said something a little bit untoward to a woman, he would get a slap across the face. And apparently that format doesn't pertain anymore.
Well, yeah, it was different back then. The movies, and TV, you never saw. Even if they were married, you wouldn't see them in the same bed.
That's right. That's right.
And so things have changed.
People say our culture has changed now. I think it changed in the 60s. I think that led to what we're
Could
experiencing
be,
now.
yeah.
But I think the way our parents and grandparents, that generation, it was a very, very, this sort of thing would not have gone on in that way, in that time period.
And don't forget, a lot of this came from California, the
Oh,
land
sure.
of fruits and nuts out there. And,
That is Hollywood. He's referring
yes,
to, ladies and
yes,
gentlemen.
it sure is.
Yeah.
I know what time it is. 5:02. Alberta, I told you I'd be late. I told you she'd come in. I'll be right out. Bye.
Do we have a
sitting out
problem?
Oh.
Anyway,
Everything okay?
This brings us down to just about the end, with about a little more than a minute to go.
I still
So-
want to wish people, even though this is 2 days after, it's the feast of St. John, my patron saint. But I want to wish everybody a very blessed and Merry Christmas. We have an extended Christmas season. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Merry
Yeah,
Christmas.
Same to you. Merry
Absolutely.
Christmas, everyone.
And
And-
Happy New Year.
And happy,
Happy
what else?
coming up
Anything
New
else
Year.
now?
That's enough. Christmas covers it all.
That's right.
No.
There you go.
Kwanzaa?
No.
Didn't that used to be an airline?
Yeah.
Australian?
Australia,
Yeah.
yeah.
What did Qantas stand for, by the way, as an acronym? Queensland and Northern Territories Air Service. Paul Harvey used to say, there's no U in Qantas. The U in Qantas is spelled Y-O-U. So, anyway, this is Jack Ryan on behalf of Tom McKenna, John Kushelko. What's your first name?
Tim Little.
Tim Little. Little Tim. I used to call Ken
Tiny
Little Ken.
Tim. We even have,
You know,
we even have
like
a
in
Tiny
Robin
Tim.
Hood, John Little was Little John. Well, let's say Ken, you're Little
Yeah.
Ken. So, and Kate and her mentor, Bill Kilgelman.
God bless
Wanna
us,
thank
everyone.
you. Have a good remainder of the Christmas holidays, and let's have a great 2018. And remember always that history is much more than the book you keep on the shelf.
You have been listening to Meet the Chicago Historians from the John DeVita Broadcast Center on the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network on Wednesday, December the 27th year, 2017. This broadcast was produced by Jack Ryan and directed by John DeVita, and our special thanks to the executive producer of Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network, Mr. John Chikanda. Ladies and gentlemen, today's broadcast of Meet the Chicago Historians was dedicated to a very, very good friend of our panel, Mr. Ken Little. On behalf of the entire staff of the John DeVito Broadcast Center, the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network, I wish each and every one of our great listeners a very, very happy, healthy, and prosperous new year.